Chapter 1186. While she was in a daze, Xiao impatiently glanced at her. Then he retracted his gaze and bent down to pick up the wine jug to fill the wine cup. At this time, Pang Zhijing finally came back to her senses. She slowly walked over and stood beside him. Seeing his actions, she subconsciously scratched her head. "I want to look for you today. The steward said that you might be here, so I came over." "Why did you come over?" Xiao did not look at her. His gaze fell on the tombstone as if he was just asking casually. She pursed her lips, not knowing what excuse to use. She couldn't say that she missed him after not seeing him for a few days. She did not forget what he said to her in the imperial palace. He told her not to think too much. She wasn't stupid enough to send herself up to be ridiculed by him. "Forget it. Where you go is none of this king's business." Seeing her conflicted face, Xiao did not pursue the matter and said indifferently. She was choked by his words, and her heart was a little hurt. This kind of Xiao who was not hypocritical was really annoying. Didn't he know that he had to be gentle and gentlemanly towards girls? "Go, don't stay here." After Xiao gave the order to leave, he lifted his clothes and sat on the ground. He did not care if the ground was clean or not as he picked up another wine cup and drank alone. When she heard him chasing her away, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. But seeing him sit down like this, such a clean freak could actually not care about anything. Today, he had opened the door to a whole new world for her. Normally, she would not have this opportunity. She suddenly did not want to leave like this, and there was a voice in her heart that told her not to leave. She rolled her eyes and squatted down beside him shamelessly. She said shamelessly, "This place doesn't belong to your family, so what right do you have to make me leave? Also, I can go wherever I want. It's none of your business." Seeing her shameless appearance, Xiao's heart was filled with helplessness. Today, he just wanted to quietly accompany his mother. Where did this little shameless person come from? "Do as you wish." He did not want to quarrel with her in front of his mother on this kind of day. Seeing that he had compromised, Pang Zhijing immediately propped herself up on the ground and imitated him. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. If you want to accompany someone, you have to make a gesture. Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. He had some doubts about her actions. He didn't know what she was going to do. But today, Xiao really guessed her thoughts wrong. There are no side dishes, only wine. Pang Zhijing watched him drink one cup after another. Although his drinking speed was not fast, he would get drunk sooner or later. What's the point of drinking like this? She didn't dare to directly snatch the cup, so she could only use words to provoke him. Xiao said indifferently, "With the cool breeze accompanying me and the mountain scenery in front of me, a cup of turbid wine is enough." She puffed up her cheeks. The ancients loved to be so genteel. "Xiao, they said that your imperial mother was buried outside the city. Is the one buried in this tomb your imperial mother?" If she didn't speak, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to start conversation. Therefore, the person who was moved first was the loser. She could only take the initiative. Xiao nodded and didn't say anything. She was quiet for a while. Then she asked hesitantly, "Did she die of illness?" The only answer she got was the whistling of the cold wind. She lowered her eyes. Although she knew that this question was a bit like prying into someone's privacy, she just wanted to know more about him. She was afraid that today's appearance was just a flash in the pan. Tomorrow, he would put on his mask again and become the sickly prince with fake smiles in his eyes. The Xiao who always gave her the illusion that they were separated by glass. Because she lowered her head, she didn't see the sadness that flashed through Xiao's eyes after she asked this question. He was so immersed in his memories that he didn't respond to her. He would never forget the time when he was 6 years old. His mother was lying on the bed, trying hard to raise her hand to touch his face to stop him from crying. But just as her hand was in the air, it fell down. From then on, he was the only one left in this world. He raised his head and saw her hugging her knees with an injured appearance. The sadness in his heart was lessened by her pitiful appearance. Sometimes, he couldn't understand how someone as thick-skinned as her could survive in the southern blue imperial palace until now. She was killed by someone, just as she was immersed in the endless cycle of resentment about Xiao, this big bad bastard, and how she accompanied him but was ignored by him. This sentence suddenly rang in her ears. She was a bit flattered that he would actually tell her this. But when she realized the meaning of this sentence, her entire back was shining. She looked at him and only saw his resolute side profile. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was carrying an unspeakable resentment and hatred. Who was the one who did this? She subconsciously blurted out. Her tone carried a hatred for a common enemy that even she didn't notice. But when she asked this, Xiao Ho's expression turned cold. This isn't something you should know. He bluntly rejected her. Pang Zhijing was frightened by his harsh words, but she knew that she had overstepped her boundaries. She could only swallow her grievances. A deathly silence spread between the two. If she didn't open her mouth, Xiao Ho wouldn't take the initiative to speak. Originally, Xiao Ho was a person who didn't care about his surroundings. But now, her silence made him uncomfortable. Just as he was pondering while swirling his wine cup, the corner of his clothes seemed to be gently tugged. He lowered his head and saw two slender jade fingers tugging at his clothes. He turned his head and met her apologetic gaze. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't pry into other people's privacy. Don't be angry, I won't ask in the future." She clearly felt wronged, but she was still willing to take the initiative to apologize. This kind of little rascal inexplicably made his heart palpitate. He shifted his gaze and looked at the pile of grass not far away. "I'm not angry, you're thinking too much. Is that so? Then why don't you smile for me?" Her bad habit of speaking without thinking appeared again. She really wanted to bite off her own tongue. All right, I won't say anything. The more I say, the more mistakes I make." She raised her hands in surrender. She really was too stupid today. She really wasn't suited for pleasing people. Xiao Ho saw her hugging her knees again, looking like she was blaming herself for being hurt. He couldn't bear it. He didn't know when it started, but her words and actions would affect him. "Go light some incense." Pang Zhijing instantly raised her head and looked at him with a face full of disbelief. Did she just hear things? Did you just say something? Xiao Ho was even shocked by what he said, not to mention Pang Zhijing. Hearing her ask for confirmation, he couldn't bring himself to repeat himself. He angrily said, "It's fine if you didn't hear it. I heard it. I'll go light some incense now." It wasn't easy for him to talk to her, so she didn't want to make things awkward again. Pang Zhijing's heart was filled with thoughts of reconciliation, so she didn't think about why he wanted her to light some incense. Afraid that he would change his mind, she immediately stood up from the ground. But she didn't know if it was because she didn't eat breakfast or something else, but she suddenly felt dizzy and fell to the side. Chapter 1187. Pang Zhijing's entire body was pressed down. Xiao Ho was caught off guard and could only reach out to catch her. Although this was not the first time he had touched her, every time he touched her, he felt that her skin was very hot and his heartbeat suddenly sped up. After the dizziness passed, she found that she was lying on top of him in a very ambiguous position. It was soft and fragrant. She actually shamefully felt that lying on top of him was very comfortable. "Have you touched enough?" Just as she was about to become infatuated, a forbearing voice rang out in her ears. Only then did she realize that her hand was on his chest, and she was poking and pinching everywhere. Cuckoo. She immediately got up from his body. She did not even dare look at him as she quickly searched for the incense. Being hit by her was too sudden. Xiao Ho stood up while holding his shoulder. As expected, meeting her was never a good thing. After moving his limbs, he looked up and saw her holding a stick of incense, not knowing what to do. He couldn't help but let out a sigh. Then he walked straight to her side, took her incense, and took out a match from his sleeve. "Stupid to death. Can't you ask me for help?" After lighting the incense and putting it back in her hand, Xiao Ho could not help but ridicule her. She wanted to cry, but had no tears as she held the incense. She silently cursed in her heart. "Isn't this because I'm afraid you'll find me annoying?" Xiao Ho stood by her side and turned to see her serious face. The irritation in his heart also calmed down as he slowly opened his mouth. "My mother used to be the daughter of the Minister of War. She was a famous, talented, and beautiful woman in the capital. Later on, her father, who was my grandfather, was framed for colluding with the enemy. His entire family was exterminated. The men were sent to the border, and the women were sent into the palace as slaves. My mother entered the palace like this as the daughter of a guilty official. Later on, because she received imperial father's favor, I existed. But she was only able to endure 6 years in the palace before she was poisoned. His calm and emotionless voice recounted the tragedy of his life without much emotion, but it made Pang Zhijing's heart ache. He must have had a hard time during those unmentioned times. His mother was the daughter of a guilty official, so she definitely did not receive good treatment in the palace. Moreover, she had heard early on that he was not favored since he was young. She could imagine how difficult it would be for him to lose his mother at such a young age in the cold palace, where the words of the weak carried little weight and the palace servants held the strong and stepped on the weak. But when he spoke, he didn't mention that past at all. When a person was in so much pain that they were numb, they would not cry out in pain. In the silence, he could feel the deep pity in her eyes. Xiao was slightly stunned. He didn't know why he told her these things so naturally, but so many years had passed. He had endured so many bitter, tiring, and hateful days. He didn't need anyone's sympathy. Now he was living with the goal of revenge in mind. However, the person next to him was not related by blood. They were just strangers who met by chance. He had schemed against her, but she still felt pity for him. This made him a little surprised, but he did not want to delve into the specific reason, because right now, there was nothing more important than his revenge. Light the incense. He looked away and said lightly. Pang Zhijing gathered her emotions and nodded. Then, she faced the tombstone and respectfully held the incense, silently thinking. Andy Luo, although I have never met you, but from Xiao's arrogant and cold attitude, I can feel his respect and love for you. You must be a gentlewoman. It's a pity that I have no chance to meet you. But I am very grateful to God for letting me meet him, and I am also grateful to you. I, Pang Zhijing, promise that as long as I am in the Sichuan capital, I will accompany him and not let him be lonely. I hope you can rest in peace in heaven. Xiao stood beside her and took in her sincere prayer. A touch of warmth appeared in his eyes. Then he turned to look at the tombstone, and his gaze became gentle. Mother, the girl standing in front of you is called Pang Zhijing. It is very likely that she is the one who will spend the rest of his life with your son. Although she is very silly and naive and causes trouble for me from time to time, I'm already used to it. You can rest assured in the ground. Pang Zhijing had already inserted the incense into the incense burner. When she was about to sit back down, something was suddenly stuffed into her hand. She looked down and couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. A sickle? What? What do you want to do? She had a bad premonition. Can't you see that the grass has grown over the tombstone? Hurry up and finish it before the sun goes down. After Xiao finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to her. He picked up another sickle and went behind the tombstone. He rolled up his sleeves and began to remove the grass. Listening to his righteous actions and natural words, a few words popped up in Pang Zhijing's head. Are you kidding me? But the other party had already used his actions to refuse to reply. Pang Zhijing encouraged herself, then rolled up her sleeves, walked to the other side, and started working in full swing. Through the grass, he saw that she was working hard. Xiao smiled with satisfaction and then continued to lower his head to do his own work. He was busy all the way until evening. The rain also gradually stopped. She straightened her back. Her whole body was a little wet, but her forehead was full of sweat. She threw the sickle on the ground and sat down. I'm so tired. Xiao walked out and poured her a cup of wine. Make do with it to quench your thirst. Her mouth was dry now, so she couldn't care about anything else. She raised her head and drank it. It wasn't as bitter as she had imagined. On the contrary, it tasted very good. She couldn't help but turn to ask him, "What wine is this?" "It's sweet. Fruit wine. My mother liked to drink it when she was still in her boudoir." He replied. She nodded. It tasted very good. It wasn't too strong and was suitable for women to drink. Wait, didn't he drink from this cup just now? Her face flushed red. Was this considered an indirect kiss? Xiao naturally didn't know what was going on in her head. He turned to see her in a daze and couldn't help but urge her. Let's go. So soon? She hadn't rested enough. Xiao was helpless. Don't tell me you want to stay and feed the mosquitoes. She looked at the few bumps on her arm. After weighing the pros and cons, she immediately got up. Let's go home. Seeing her skipping ahead, Xiao smiled and followed behind with his hands behind his back. It was just that when they were climbing up the hill, he turned back to take a look, and an unknown emotion surfaced in his heart. On this day this year, because of Little Rascal's interruption, it didn't seem so sad. At this moment, Little Rascal was startled again. Xiao Ho, look, there's a rainbow. He turned back, but he didn't look at the sky immediately. Instead, he looked at the bright smile that was so sincere and warm. I see it. It's very beautiful. Of course, I'm in a good mood, so I'll sing a song for you. The sunshine always comes after the rain. Please believe that there's a rainbow. I'll accept all the ups and downs. I'll always be by your side. Her crisp and warm voice reverberated throughout the vast space. Chapter 1188. The maid and coachman waited beside the carriage for a long time. When they finally saw their princess coming from afar, they immediately went up to her. Your Highness, why were you gone for so long? I almost want to look for you. I was so worried. The maidservant didn't notice Xiao Ho, who was behind her, until she saw that she was safe and sound. She hurriedly saluted him. Greetings, Your Highness. Xiao Ho nodded slightly. This maid was called Lu'er. She was newly assigned to serve her. She was not as snobbish as the previous ones who always looked down on her, so she treated her with sincerity. She waved her hand and said indifferently, This place is deserted. What danger can there be? You're the only one who likes to worry. As she spoke, she glanced at the person beside her from the corner of her eye. She immediately asked, Do you not have a ride? Do you want to go back with me? Xiao Ho looked at her as if she was an idiot. Although we are engaged, do you think it's appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone? Don't ruin my reputation. Pang Zhijing's mouth twitched. Didn't she eat and sleep with him on the way back to the capital? As if he saw through her thoughts, Xiao Ho explained, This place is different from the outside. Let's go separately. All right. She accepted his explanation. When she was about to say something else, her nose suddenly itched and she couldn't help but sneeze. She probably caught a cold in the cemetery. She rubbed her nose and was about to say goodbye to him when she felt a weight on her shoulder. She tilted her head and saw that he was about to withdraw his hand. Her whole body was wrapped in his coat, and it was very warm. She was touched when she heard him say, Don't do such brainless things in the future. Her good impression of him disappeared immediately. If I had a brain, where would you find free labor today? After saying that, she vaguely felt that she had said something wrong. She looked up and saw him trying to hold back his laughter. She felt utterly embarrassed again. However, it was rare to see Xiao Ho so untainted and bright. She felt that sometimes her stupidity was worth it. When she turned to get on the carriage, Xiao Ho spoke. When you didn't find me in the graveyard, no one was watching you. Why didn't you run away? His words made her stop in her tracks, and her eyes widened instantly. That's right, why was she so stupid? Was she really going to find him wholeheartedly? Actually, she could have slipped away. Such a rare opportunity. Xiao Ho couldn't help but shake his head when he saw her slow reaction. Seeing him like this, it seemed like he knew everything. She was a little angry in her heart. Do you think I'm stupid? You have a compass in your hand. No matter where I go, I'll still be found by you. I don't have time to play cat and mouse with you. Now that you've missed your chance, you won't get another one. Xiao Ho looked at her coldly. She snorted. If you have the ability, you can lock me up for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I'll definitely find a way to get my freedom. Even tigers have times when they take a nap. I hope you can stay awake every day. After saying that, she stepped into the carriage and ignored him. Take care, princess. Hearing the hypocrite's warm smile, Pang Zhijing choked on a mouthful of old blood in her throat. She beat her chest and stamped her feet. She shouldn't have been soft-hearted. This was simply a wolf, a complete wolf with a big tail. Xiao Ho watched her carriage leave. Thinking of her words before she left, he couldn't help but sneer. If he wanted to trap someone, it wouldn't be difficult at all if he put in some effort. She was too naive. However, it wasn't until that day that he suddenly realized how easy it was to lose a person. It was so easy that he couldn't reach out his hand to touch her eyebrows when she was within his reach. Sitting in the carriage, Pang Zhijing's anger slowly subsided. Her hand touched his coat, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help but curl up into a sweet smile. Luo didn't know about the entanglement between her and Xiao Ho. Judging from their interaction just now, they were a perfect match. A talented man and a beautiful woman. They were a match made in heaven. At this moment, seeing the princess's budding love, she couldn't help but smile. I think you and Prince E are a perfect match. Hearing this, Pang Zhijing's smile faded. Is that so? Luo nodded vigorously. Yes. When you stand together, I feel that the surrounding scenery is overshadowed. Pang Zhijing twitched the corner of her mouth. Perhaps. Xiao Ho was an unreachable existence to her. The distance between them was too far. Therefore, even if she fell for him first, she wouldn't allow herself to fall for him. The one who fell in love first was the most inferior. But this little girl wouldn't understand, even if she explained it to her. I'm tired. I'll rest for a while. Wake me up when we arrive. She was a little sleepy after doing so much physical work today. Luo nodded considerately. She closed her eyes and hugged his coat. The faint medicinal fragrance on it was very helpful for sleeping. Soon, she fell asleep. In a daze, she seemed to have a dream. Fog lingered in front of her, and she couldn't see more than 5 steps away. She was a little nervous. Where is this? Why was she here? At this time, a gust of wind blew, blowing away the fog in front of her. The scenery not far away slowly became clear. When she saw it clearly, she couldn't help but widen her eyes. Wasn't this the tomb where she and Xiao Ho were just now? Why did she dream of it? Could it be that she had really attracted something unclean? Xiao Ho, where are you? It's all your fault. Come and save me. Her legs were about to turn to jelly. But at this time, a light blue figure slowly appeared after the fog dispersed. Pang Zhijing subconsciously wanted to run, but when the other's face clearly entered her line of sight, she couldn't help but stop. There was a beauty, clear and gentle. Only today did she completely understand the meaning of this sentence. Hello, may I ask who you are? The beauty smiled at her. She looked to be around 20 years old, but her gaze was filled with affection. It made her feel a little strange. I am Luo Qinxi. You don't have to be afraid. I only entered your dream. I won't hurt you. The voice was gentle and soft, with a gentle and beautiful tone. Luo? Pang Zhijing exclaimed. Could it be that you're Xiao Ho's mother? Luo Qinxi smiled. That's right. Ho is my child. Today is the first time he's brought a girl to visit me. I'm very surprised and happy. Pang Zhijing touched her nose a little embarrassedly. I'm the one who pestered him. He actually hates me. No, I can see that he likes you very much. Luo Qinxi pursed her lips and smiled. Pang Zhijing's face heated up, and she immediately changed the topic. Then why are you here? Luo Qinxi frowned slightly. Actually, I should have reincarnated, but Ho has been blinded by hatred. I really couldn't be at ease, so I continued to stay in the world of the living. At this point, she suddenly smiled and looked at Pang Zhijing. But now, I can reincarnate with peace of mind. Jing, please allow me to call you this. I'll leave Ho in your hands. He's suffered too much these years. There's not much time left, so I have to go. Take care. Chapter 1189. Before Pang Zhijing could hear clearly, the person in front of her turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared. She reached out to call her, but suddenly woke up with a start. Princess, did you have a nightmare? Luo immediately came over and asked worriedly. Pang Zhijing blinked. After her eyes adjusted to the light, she held her forehead and slowly got up. I'm fine. It was just a dream. Where are we now? We're already in the city. We'll be at the relay station soon. Luo pointed at the street outside and smiled. She nodded and leaned against the wall of the carriage. Her gaze fell on the brightening street as she recalled the scene in her dream. Could it be that she dreamed of what she thought of in the day? But that woman was so real. She could still remember her smiling face and the words she said. That was too strange. At this moment, Luo suddenly remembered something. She immediately took something and handed it to Ji Yunshu. Princess, when we entered the city just now, a servant from Prince Yi's residence sent this ointment. He said that Prince Yi ordered it to be applied to your wounds. Lu then asked worriedly, Princess, are you hurt? Hurt? Pang Zhijing, who was immersed in her own world, didn't react. However, Lu, who was worried about her, had already started to check her injuries. Ji Yinshu was just about to tell her not to panic when Lu held her hand with tears in her eyes. Her heart ached. Princess, what happened to your hand? Why are there so many cuts? What have you been doing all afternoon? Only then did Pang Zhijing notice that her fingers were cut by the grass. Although the wounds weren't deep, they still hurt a little. I had nothing to do this afternoon, so I went to pull the grass. I didn't know that my fingers were so delicate and couldn't do any physical work. Lu looked at her plaintively. Princess, you're of noble status. Those menial tasks are all done by us servants. If you have nothing to do, you could go play the zither and read books. If there's anything else, just let me do it. Ji Yinshu was tired of having to deal with such a nagging maidservant. She could only promise that it wouldn't happen again. You said that this ointment was sent by Prince E? Ji Yinshu's main point was this. Lu nodded. Yes. He said that if you apply this ointment twice a day, it will heal quickly. After you bathe in the evening, this servant will apply the medicine for you. It turned out that he still cared about her. It seemed that he wasn't so cold-hearted after all. Pang Zhijing was secretly delighted. Lu was immune to her mistress's infatuation. She began to think about what supper she should prepare for tonight. The carriage smoothly entered the relay station. Inside the palace, Consort Yu stood at the entrance of Xiao Ran's palace and waited impatiently outside. After a while, Liu walked out and said to Consort Yu with a straight face, His Highness said that he's not feeling well and asked for your Highness to return first. He'll visit you once he's recovered. Every time this consort comes, you all use this excuse to fob off this consort. Have you all eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? Imperial concubine Moon finally couldn't bear it any longer and said angrily. Lu Yu still looked neither servile nor overbearing. Your Highness, this is His Highness's wish. This servant can't make the decision. All right, he said that he's not feeling well, but he didn't ask for an imperial physician. This consort has invited an imperial physician from the imperial hospital, and he's on his way. This consort wants to see what he's throwing a tantrum for. As she spoke, Consort Yu waved her hand. The guards behind her forcibly opened up a path and pushed Lu Yu to the side. Consort Yu led her people in. The moment she entered the inner hall, she felt that the entire place was lifeless. Consort Yu's face darkened, and she immediately ordered the lights to be lit. When the hall lit up, Consort Yu looked around and saw the person lying on the bed. She immediately walked over. She had prepared words of reprimand, but when she saw his pale and bloodless face, her anger immediately dissipated. She sat down on the chair that the palace servant had brought over and said tenderly, Rana, were you feeling unwell? The imperial physician will be here soon. Xiao Ran's tightly shut eyes slowly opened when he heard her voice. His unfocused eyes slowly focused. Just as Consort Yu happily waited for him to speak, he flipped over and turned his back to her. He didn't say a word and silently resisted. Consort Yu was hurt by his silent resistance. She suppressed her anger and complained, What exactly is wrong with you? You won't even say anything when Mufei comes to see you? After she finished speaking, the person on the bed still didn't move. Consort Yu took a deep breath and turned to ask the palace servants attending to him, When did His Highness become like this? The young eunuch replied in a trembling voice, Ever since His Highness came back from falling into the water a few days ago, he hasn't said a word or eaten anything. No matter how this servant tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen. Then why didn't you tell this consort? Consort Yu vented her anger on them. The young eunuch immediately knelt down and wanted to cry. His Highness didn't allow this servant to leave the hall to tell you. Consort Yu coldly gave a look to the guards following her. The guard stepped forward and dragged the young eunuch away, along with the other palace servants in the hall. When the palace was quiet again and only the mother and son were left, Consort Yu spoke to Xiao Ran again. Do you blame Mufei for falling into the water? I don't dare, Xiao Ran said in a hoarse voice. Consort Yu sneered. Mufei thinks that it's not that you don't dare, but that you already blame her in your heart. Xiao Ran didn't say anything. Consort Yu sighed. Renner, Mufei knows that I didn't do a good job, but who would have thought that an accident would happen? Why did Jing Mingzhu run out? Where did Chu Qingyan run off to? No one could have predicted that. Mufei has truly let you down. I didn't think that you would use this kind of method to treat Qingyan. It's too dirty, Xiao Ran said in a muffled voice. His voice was filled with deep disappointment. These words deeply pierced Consort Yu's heart. She felt that she had schemed so hard for him, but in the end, she was called dirty. She felt powerless in her heart. Ranner, how do you think Mufei took care of you for so many years to survive in this man-eating place? It's all Mufei's fault for protecting you too well. You can't see the wolves, tigers, and leopards outside. Consort Yu stood up and said in a low voice, the matter with Chu Qingyan was Mufei's negligence. You can blame Mufei, but you have to settle this marriage with the Jing family. Whether it's for public or private reasons, it's good for you. I don't want to marry someone I don't love. Xiao Ran regretted saying those words to Mufei, but as soon as he heard that he was going to marry Jing Mingzhu, he became excited. Now that things have come to this, you don't have the right to choose. All right, that's all Mufei has to say. When the imperial physician comes, cooperate with Mufei. Mufei won't be an eyesore to you anymore. Consort Yu looked at him, shook her head, and turned to leave in disappointment. Xiao Ran watched her leave and angrily clenched his fists and punched the bed. Why did it become like this? Why? Chapter 1190. The sky gradually darkened. When Chu Qingyan received the news that Big Ice Cube had returned, it was already late at night. She hurriedly ran to his courtyard. The moment she entered, she smelled the aroma of wine. She turned around and saw the wine pot and cups on the table. When Xiao Su was pouring the wine, he saw her figure from the corner of his eye. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why are you here?" She pretended to be relaxed as she walked in. She complained, "You didn't even say anything when you went out today. I didn't see you come back for dinner. Don't you know that you have a family? How can you be like this?" Xiao Su was slightly stunned. He had indeed left in a hurry today. He apologized. "I'll remember it. It won't happen again." Who wants to hear his promise? She turned around and sat down in front of him. "Have you eaten? What about you?" He asked back. "You haven't eaten yet. I've already asked the kitchen to prepare some food. It'll be sent over later." She rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. Ian is really capable. Xiao Su praised with slightly curved lips. "Don't flatter me. This lady doesn't care." She was unhappy that he was keeping things to himself. He would rather relieve himself than tell her. He would rather wander aimlessly outside than come back. He would rather drown his sorrows in wine than have her accompany him. The little fellow's sudden tantrum made him a little confused. "Who provoked you?" "Far away on the horizon, right in front of me," she harumphed. Xiao Su was slightly stunned. He then smiled helplessly. "I'm fine. You don't have to worry." "Is that so?" Then who was it that strolled around the streets as if he had lost his soul after leaving the palace, and even bought wine back? Don't you know that it hurts your stomach to drink wine without eating? What can't two people discuss together? When two people share happiness, happiness will be added to happiness. When two people share bitterness, bitterness will be less bitter. Big Ice Cube, do you not have me in your heart anymore? So I'm not important anymore? In the beginning, Xiao Su listened to her scolding and felt a little guilty. But in the end, it escalated to such a serious level. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His palm landed on her head and rubbed it hard. He laughed and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. She suddenly stood up and pounced on him. Xiao Su instinctively opened his arms and embraced her. She hugged him tightly and buried her head in his chest. She said in a nasal voice, "Big Ice Cube, it's okay. Don't be sad. There are thousands of people in this world, and thousands of people have different personalities and ways of living. Not every mother loves her child, and not every child is born without the love of their family. You still have me. Don't be disappointed with family. You're my Big Ice Cube, and also my family." Xiao Su felt his chest become moist, and his heart felt like it was being scalded by that moist feeling. It was burning. It turned out that the little fellow knew about it. He had walked outside for half a day because he didn't want her to see him in such a sorry state. But he didn't expect that the little fellow had a heart of 7 orifices. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't hide it from her eyes. You knew about it. He hugged her sideways on his lap and reached out to gently wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. He hesitated for a moment before asking. She nodded and leaned her head on his shoulder. She sniffled. I know that Hong Yi is your imperial mother's person. I also know that she has always disliked me and wanted to get rid of me. So after you finished interrogating her today, I guess that you were going to find your imperial mother to reason with her. I've known your imperial mother for a while and know what kind of person she is. She won't admit to her mistakes. Moreover, you are such a filial person, so you can't do anything to her. But you also feel guilty towards me in your heart. You feel that it's because of you that I'm in danger. At this point, she reached out to hold his hand. Her fingers slid through the gaps between his fingers and tightly intertwined. Then she continued, so in the end, the only one who will suffer is yourself. Ian, he was about to open his mouth when she stopped him. She looked into his eyes and continued, Big Ice Cube, you don't have to feel sorry for me. You are you, and your imperial mother is your imperial mother. You don't have to take the blame for whatever she did to me. No one can take responsibility for anyone, so you don't have to feel burdened. Xiao Su held her hand tightly, his eyes filled with pity. She smiled at him and then said in a serious tone, I know that as a junior, I shouldn't criticize my elders. But I still want to say that in Empress Liang's eyes, they're only power and status. Family ties may be the last. So you know what kind of person she is, so don't expect to receive love from her. If there's no hope, there won't be disappointment. Big Ice Cube, I hope that you can live a more relaxed and happy life. Those responsibilities, the country, and the world, we can do as much as we can. Don't carry the rest on your shoulders, because that will make my heart ache. After saying so much, she stopped to catch her breath. Suddenly, she felt that the place she was leaning on was trembling slightly. She couldn't help but look up, only to see that the big ice cube was laughing softly. Hey, don't be like this. I'm talking to you seriously, but you actually laughed. It was rare for her to be so serious, but the big ice cube didn't give her face at all. It was too sad, but to be able to see him smile from the bottom of his heart again, she felt that she didn't say so much in vain. And these words had been hidden in her heart for many years. Finally, she was happy to say it out, and she couldn't help but giggle foolishly. Ian, I didn't expect you to have a teacher's side. He shook his head and laughed. I also didn't expect that a dignified general like me would be lectured by someone one day. And in his heart, he agreed with every word she said. This is called shocking people with a single brilliant feat. It's all because I'm usually too low-key. She was in a good mood, and her face became thick-skinned. Xiao Su looked at the little fellow in front of him. From the bottom of his heart, he felt that she was like the umbrella in his life. Every time a storm came, she was the only one who accompanied him. She was right. People couldn't choose their own birth and parents. Nothing could be forced. Only by letting nature take its course could one free their heart and not live so hard anymore. He was too greedy and excessively wanted things that didn't belong to him. In fact, in his life, being able to meet this little fellow was already his greatest fortune. So there was no need to continue being so demanding. It was as if he had put down a heavy burden that had been weighing down on him for many years. He had never felt so relaxed. Then she asked, are you in a better mood now? Are you still feeling bad? Xiao Su pinched her face and teased, what do you think? Seeing him like this, he should be fine. She stuck out her tongue at him. This mischievous look made his heart itch, and he couldn't help but want to lower his head and kiss her. And at this moment, a loud voice was heard. Kai Kai, son-in-law, your mother and I are here. Mr. Chu jumped in and couldn't help but blink. He seemed to have seen many pink bubbles suddenly burst, and his daughter and son-in-law were standing side by side and looking at him. He rubbed his head. He must be seeing things. Chapter 1191. We haven't eaten yet. Let's eat together, Mr. Chu said casually. Just then, Mrs. Chu came in and smiled at the two of them. I told the kitchen to prepare 2 more dishes. Xiao Su looked at the little fellow beside him in confusion. He asked her with his eyes what was going on. Why did her parents suddenly come to his yard for dinner tonight? Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose and leaned closer to him. She stammered, "Dad and Mom came to visit this afternoon. They found out that you were in a bad mood today. Maybe that's why they came over tonight." Xiao Su was stunned. However, at this time, Chu Qian's father had already sat down and asked his wife to sit down. Then, he picked up the wine pot and poured a glass of wine. He put it under his nose and smelled it. His eyes immediately lit up. "Good wine." Mr. Chu immediately gulped it down, as if he was afraid that others would choke on it. At the same time, Huang Yi brought the servants in with the dishes. Sweet and sour pork ribs, braised fish, braised pork trotters, 8 treasure wild duck, golden roll. It was obvious that Huang Yi had put in a lot of effort into tonight's meal. Mr. Chu was already drooling. He waited for his wife to scoop the food for him and couldn't wait to take big bites. "You don't even know how hungry I was waiting for you to come back for dinner," Chu Qian's father said incoherently. He didn't know why they wanted to wait for him to eat together, but when he heard this, his heart instantly warmed. He reached out with his chopsticks and put a piece of fatty fish into Mr. Chu's bowl. He then put a piece of pork ribs into Mrs. Chu's bowl and asked them to eat more. Mr. Chu was flattered. "Son-in-law, you actually know that Dad likes to eat fish. Come, have a piece too." Xiao Su looked at the extra meat in his bowl and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't this piece of fatty meat a little too fatty? Kai, you're still growing. Eat more trotters." "I know, Mom. Don't just focus on getting food for us. Eat more too. Dan Yang, give your son-in-law a piece of hoof. That plate is too far away. I'm afraid he won't be able to get it." Therefore, the long-limbed son-in-law became a short-limbed son-in-law in his father-in-law's words. Looking at the joyous scene at the dinner table, Xiao Su suddenly felt that was what he had desired in the past. The whole family enjoyed their meal in a relaxed manner. They cared for each other and treated each other sincerely. It turned out that happiness was always so close to him. Today, he had just experienced the disappointment of his family, but because of the little fellow's family, he felt warm. He seemed to have understood something, and the knot in his heart was quietly untied. In the future, he would also have a family, and more than one. Chu Qingyan looked at the faint smile in Big Ice Cube's eyes, and then looked at her father, whose mouth and hands were full of oil, and couldn't help but smile. Heaven closes a door for you, but opens a window for you. Maybe you haven't met the right person, but as long as you don't give up, you might meet him at the next corner. Come, son-in-law, have a drink with your father. The wine cups clinked, and laughter filled the room. It was such a happy and harmonious family. Hua Ling and Turin, who were standing guard outside, could hear the laughter coming from inside from time to time. Their tense nerves could finally relax. It's still the little princess that has a way. She silently gave Master such a powerful healing medicine. Hua Ling sighed. His words couldn't hide his admiration for the little princess. Turin nodded. "I thought that Master would be depressed for a while like before, but it's all thanks to the little princess. In the future, we need to pay more attention to the movements of the Imperial Palace. At least, we need to protect the little princess from being hurt. Otherwise, where can we find such an outstanding little princess for Master?" Hua Ling sighed. Turin's expression turned serious. "You're right. At least before we leave the capital, we can't let down our guard. There is only one Chu Qingyan in the world, one Chu Qingyan who could heal the wound in their master's heart. So even if they had to use all their strength, they would not let her suffer any harm." In the morning, Chu Qingyan had nothing to do and was trimming the potted plants in the room. Jasper walked in. "Master, the 4th prince's bodyguard is asking to see you." Chu Qingyan cut with a pair of scissors and almost cut it. She checked it and found that there weren't any big problems before putting down the scissors. She was silent. Ever since the palace banquet, she had not heard any news from Xiao Ran. Now that he suddenly sent someone over, she muttered in her heart. Why was he looking for her? "All right, bring him to the guest room. I'll come after changing my clothes," she ordered. After a while, she appeared in the guest room. When Xiang Yu saw her, she respectfully bowed and said, "Young Miss Chu, my family's highness is leaving the palace today. He has prepared a banquet at the Celestial Crane Pavilion and wants to invite you over. Chu Qingyan couldn't help raising her brows. Did he say what it was about? No, he didn't. Xiang Yu answered honestly. Although the other party's intentions were unclear, they had been good friends for many years. She couldn't bear to disappoint him. Moreover, he was about to get married, so she should go and congratulate him. All right, then you go first. I'll be there shortly. Yes. Xiang Yu bowed and retreated. After she left, Jasper asked in confusion, Master, do you really want to go? The rumors have been spreading like wildfire in the past few days. This subordinate is worried that someone with ulterior motives will make an issue out of it. It wasn't that she hadn't considered this problem before, but she still felt that she had to make a trip. If she could use this opportunity to cut off his thoughts, then no matter if it was for him or her, it would only be beneficial. The person who started the rumors has already been dealt with. Moreover, we have done nothing wrong, so don't worry. Chu Qingyan comforted her, then ordered Xining to prepare the carriage. However, she still took Jasper's words to heart. Before leaving, she decided to return to her room and change into men's clothing as a disguise. After all, this was a sensitive period, so it was best to avoid causing trouble if possible. Do we need to inform Lord? Xining didn't follow. After sending her master onto the carriage, she suddenly thought of something and asked. Chu Qingyan nodded. If he returns before I return, tell him my whereabouts. Xining accepted the order and retreated. Celestial Crane Tower was 2 streets away. The road was filled with carriages, and it took more than an hour to arrive. Once they arrived, they were led to a private room on the 2nd floor. Chu Qingyan stood at the door for a while before reaching out to push the door open. Celestial Crane Tower had always been decorated with a generous and noble aura, so the first thing that entered her eyes was a large and lifelike peony painting. It was as if a real flower had bloomed in front of her eyes. She exclaimed in surprise. This painting came from a famous painter in Sichuan. The paintings in my palace are also his. If you like them, I'll have someone send a few over to you. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice sounded in the room. Chapter 1192. Chu Qingyan turned around, and a thin figure appeared in front of her. His face was pale, and his posture was frail. Was this person in front of her still the high-spirited and arrogant Xiao Ran that she knew? Why did he give off the feeling that he was seriously ill at this moment? What's wrong? Are you sick? She forgot all the words that she had prepared earlier when she saw him like this. She couldn't help but step forward and ask with concern. Seeing her worried expression, Xiao Ran chuckled and waved his hand. He said nonchalantly, I'm fine. I just fell into the water a few days ago and caught a cold. I'll be fine after a few days of rest. But I'm very happy that you still care about me. What are you talking about? You're my friend. Shouldn't I care about you? His words sounded a little strange. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Xiao Ran smiled bitterly. Qingyan, you're so smart. You should be able to guess what I mean. I really don't know what you're trying to say. She was confused. I invited you here today to apologize. Xiao Ran smiled apologetically at her. Apologize? Yes, that falling into the water wasn't a coincidence. But the person who fell into the water was a coincidence. And all of this was planned by my mother. I apologize to you on her behalf. He felt bitter when he said this. If he hadn't jumped into the water in a hurry, then would there have been no marriage bestowment later on? He was very regretful. Chu Qingyan understood what he meant. She wanted to be confused about this matter in front of him and let time dilute it, but he took the initiative to bring it up. Her gaze gradually turned sharp. Since they were talking openly, then there was no need to hide anything. From what you're saying, this whole thing was planned by your mother. Then what's her motive? There must be a reason for everything. Could it be that she wants to separate me and Lord? Xiao Ran didn't dare to look at her. He lowered his head and said, Yes, she wants the marriage bestowment to be invalid. Because he suddenly plucked up his courage and slowly raised his head. His dim eyes suddenly brightened as he looked at the person in front of him. This is also the second reason why I invited you here. Qingyan, I like you very much. I've liked you since you left 5 years ago. I've waited for you for 5 years and missed you for 5 years. Now that you're back, I don't want to miss you again. That's why Mother came up with this plan after knowing my wish. He had mustered all his strength to confess his feelings to the woman he loved. This was the boldest thing he had ever done in his life, and it was also the first thing he had taken the initiative to do. 5 years ago, when they first met, he was jealous of her existence and took over the eldest brother, so he bullied her at first sight. Unfortunately, she was so calm and collected that she didn't take him seriously at all. Later on, she had met with mishaps one after another because of him. She was either poisoned or injured. He felt guilty towards her. Then, as he got to know her, he realized that she was a cute little girl who could bring joy and surprise to people. She was different from the people he had met before. In the Imperial Palace, most people were either afraid of him or tried to curry favor with him. No one was willing to play with him. But she was different. She treated him as a friend. She would ignore him, take care of him, play with him, and tell him the truth of life. This was something he could not understand from anywhere else. So, gradually, he became dependent on her, and his eyes could not leave her. Until one day, he suddenly realized that his feelings for her had changed. He wanted to keep her by his side, protect her, and give her happiness. But when his eldest brother was forced to leave the capital, he was injured and could not do anything. He could only watch as she went further and further away from him. Then she left for 5 years. The taste of longing became sweet as he waited. It turned out that waiting could also make people feel happy. 5 years later, he met her again. She had already grown to the point where no one could recognize her. She was noble, beautiful, and generous, but her strange personality was still there. As soon as they met, they returned to the way they were in the past. He was very grateful for the gift from the heavens. Although she had grown up, she was still the same person. His heart could no longer stop beating faster for her. Just like in a phoenix seeking a phoenix, when there is a beauty, you will never forget her. When you don't see her for a day, you will go crazy thinking about her. Faced with Xiao Ran's sudden confession, Chu Qingyan was stunned. For a moment, she could not react. Qingyan, don't be scared by me. I really do like you. It's just that I never told you. No, that's not right. Last time at Hugwu Temple, I played the song, A Phoenix Seeking a Phoenix for you. That day, I wanted to express my feelings, but you didn't give me the chance. Xiao Ran rubbed his head. He was a bit embarrassed, but he knew that at this time, he could not show his cowardice. Otherwise, it would be easy to leave a bad impression. So he straightened his back and locked his eyes on her, unwilling to look away. Chu Qingyan's lips twitched. Knowing was one thing, but hearing him say it with her own ears was another. She felt a bit awkward and did not know what to say. Xiao Ran, don't forget that I am your eldest brother's fiancé. Xiao Ran nodded disapprovingly. I know, but this is not a problem. As long as you are willing to marry me, I will tell my eldest brother and imperial father that we are truly in love. They treat me so well, so they will not stop us. Hearing his matter-of-fact tone, Chu Qingyan felt that it was incomparably absurd. She really wondered if water had entered his head when he saved her. Could it be that he could hear the sound of water when he shook his head? She took a deep breath and tried to reason with him. What makes you think that your eldest brother will break off the engagement for you? Xiao Ran did not notice the coldness in her voice as he continued. Eldest brother has been used to being free since he was young. He doesn't like people forcing him to do anything. When a marriage was bestowed, it was without his knowledge. Moreover, there is such a big age gap between you two, so you definitely don't have anything in common. Only when you're around the same age can you talk. You don't have to worry. Ever since I was young, Imperial Brother has always doted on me. As long as I like it, he will put it in front of me. She already could not listen anymore. How could there be such a selfish person? In the past, she did not realize that he was so childish and took things for granted. Enough, I don't want to listen anymore. Xiao Ran, I'm telling you, everything is not like what you think. Being interrupted halfway, Xiao Ran anxiously said, Qingyan, I am sincere towards you. This was not a question of sincerity, all right? She took a deep breath and then looked at him seriously. Xiao Ran, tell me honestly, in your imperial mother's plan to fall into the water, what role did you play? In other words, before it happened, did you know anything about it? The smile instantly froze on his face. Xiao Ren looked at her, not knowing what to do. Chapter 1193. Seeing his reaction, Chu Qingyan, who still had hope for him, felt her heart turn cold. So you knew that your mother schemed against me at that time, but you stood by and watched it happen. If Miss Jing hadn't happened to appear there at that time and become the scapegoat, then I, who is standing in front of you, might have faced ruin and a stain for the rest of my life. Then my engagement would have been broken and I would have been forced to marry you. After saying this, Xiao Ran's face turned paler and paler. He moved his lips, not knowing how to explain. Chu Qingyan clenched her fists. Her gaze was serious, and her voice was filled with sadness and disappointment. Xiao Ran, I didn't think that you were this kind of person. You would use any means to get what you want, even if it doesn't belong to you. You're too selfish. I treated you as a friend, and His Highness loved you so much. I didn't think that you would bite the hand that feeds you and accuse me. With such a serious accusation being placed on his head, Xiao Ran started to panic. He hurriedly waved his hands and explained, Qingyan, it's not like that. I didn't know that Imperial Mother wanted you to fall into the water. Right? You might not have known that your mother planned to make me fall into the water. It was such a simple and crude plan, but you must have known that something would happen to me that night. Although you didn't know what happened, wasn't the result the same? Xiao Ran, have you heard that it's better to tear down a temple than to tear down a marriage? What happened to all the books you've been reading for so many years? She remembered that when she first met him, he was a bit arrogant, but he wasn't a bad person. Why did he become more selfish and only think about himself when he grew up? Could it be that she changed him in the 5 years that they were missing? Yes, I admit that I know a little. However, Qingyan, if the two of us want to be together, then the engagement will become an obstacle. Although Imperial Mother's plan is the worst, she is doing it for our own good. After that incident, he also blamed himself. He blamed his Lady Mother for using such a method, but he could not criticize his Lady Mother in front of others. If Qingyan was unhappy and wanted to hit or scold him, she could just direct it at him. Chu Qingyan was about to explode. She had never seen such an unreasonable person. She calmed down and said seriously, Xiao Ran, which eye of yours saw that I wanted to break off the engagement? Don't always be so self-righteous. That's your opinion. Don't force it on me. Moreover, I look down on people who are unscrupulous in love. You hurt someone and still say it's for the good of the other party. I have nothing to say to you. You're on your own now. After saying that, she didn't want to stay under the same roof with him anymore. She was afraid that he would say something else, and she wouldn't be able to resist slapping him. She turned around and wanted to leave, but Xiao Ran immediately walked to the door to stop her. He held her hand and said sincerely, Qingyan, I'm not unscrupulous, and I'm not self-righteous. You've misunderstood. His hand was very hot, so Chu Qingyan flung it away. Looking at Xiao Su, who was gradually approaching, she took a few steps back and kept a distance. She looked at him from the corner of her eyes. I misunderstood? Think back to what you said just now. Which one of your words was wrong? Moreover, you already have Miss Jing. You've sowed the seeds, so you have to bear the consequences. She's a good and innocent girl, but because of you, she's suffered such humiliation. You have to treat her well. When Xiao Ran heard this, he suddenly realized something and couldn't help but chuckle. Qingyan, you said so many angry words today, but you didn't mean it, right? Are you jealous? Jealous? Why would she be jealous? Without waiting for her reply, Xiao Ran giggled and continued. Don't worry, Imperial Father only gave her the position of concubine. If you're willing to break off the engagement with eldest brother, the position of concubine will definitely be yours. No one will suppress you, and I only like you. Hearing him talk more and more nonsense, Chu Qingyan felt like she was playing the lute to a cow. She couldn't even get angry. Xiao Ran, wake up. The problem between us isn't this at all. She took a deep breath again and decided to explain everything. Otherwise, with his brain circuit, he wouldn't be able to understand what she meant. The person in front of him suddenly looked at him seriously. Xiao Ran's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad feeling. In your thoughts, your eldest brother and I aren't a good match. It doesn't matter if he has me or not, right? Her face was as calm as water as she continued. Xiao Ran, let me tell you, this is just your wishful thinking. You are happy and lucky to have Imperial Father who dotes on you and Imperial Mother who dotes on you. But my Highness, he only has me. He won't let me leave him, and it's even more impossible for me to leave him. My feelings for him are very deep. Unless we part in death, we will never part. Xiao Ran's face paled as he stared at her with wide eyes. I've always treated you as a good friend. Because of His Highness, I also treat you like my own younger brother. If I've done anything to cause you to misunderstand, I'll apologize to you right here. If there were some words that would hurt someone but had to be said clearly, then she would choose to be the bad guy. She didn't want the situation to become more serious. Xiao Ran, although you and His Highness don't have the same mother, he treats you like his own younger brother. He modestly gives in to you, cares for you, and loves you. It's all because of the love an older brother has for his younger brother. However, you can't use this as a bargaining chip. You can't think that no matter what in this world, your eldest brother will give it to you unconditionally. The Xiao Ran in front of her became paler and paler. His expression also became more and more painful. However, it was better to deal with the pain quickly. Today, she had to correct his twisted thoughts. Otherwise, it might become a hidden danger in the future. So Xiao Ran, if you want something, then fight for it reasonably. However, before you fight for it, ask if the other person is willing or not. No one should be unconditionally good to another person, and no one can take other people's efforts for free. Your eldest brother truly loves and cares for you, but you can't hurt him because of your selfishness. You've already received much more than him. She said so much in one breath. She also didn't know if he would listen. Looking at him, standing there with his head lowered, she couldn't see his expression. However, his entire body was emitting an extremely depressed aura. She couldn't bear to see him like this, but things had already come to this point. There was no point in saying more. If he wanted to walk out of this, he could only rely on himself. She pursed her lips. Think about it carefully. I'm leaving. When she brushed shoulders with him, he suddenly spoke in a low voice. A gentle and graceful lady is a good match for a gentleman. I'm only pursuing the lady I like. Is that wrong? She looked at him, but his face was covered by his long hair. She couldn't see his expression clearly. Why do you have to elevate it to the point that I'm unpardonably evil? Facing his question, she fell silent. However, Xiao Ran's tone turned to pleading. Qingyan, I don't believe that you don't like me. Sorry, I don't like you. Chapter 1194. I'm sorry, I don't like you. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, exploding in his head. He had been infatuated with her for so many years, secretly hiding his feelings for her in his heart for so many years. He was happy and sad for her for so many years, but in return, she said, I'm sorry, I don't like you. Xiao Ran felt as if his entire world had collapsed. He slowly raised his head, his eyes wet and bloodshot as he looked at her unwillingly. Qingyan, I like you so much. Why can't you consider me? Chu Qingyan looked at his pained expression and could not bear to see him in such pain. However, the worst thing in a relationship was to be ambiguous and involved. Thus, she had to make it clear today and cleanly cut off his feelings for her. Liking someone is a very strange feeling. Some people fall in love at first sight. Some people fall in love over time. But if you want to give a reason for liking someone, I'm afraid you can't even explain it clearly. Maybe it's a moment of throbbing, or maybe it's a look, an action, or an event, and then countless throbbing will converge into liking someone. However, it's very easy to see that you don't love someone. From the beginning to the end, I've always treated you as a friend, and in my heart, I already have your eldest brother. In front of outsiders, she was never shy to admit her feelings for Xiao Su. If Xiao Su was here at this moment and heard her confession, he would probably be overjoyed. Xiao Ran, feelings aren't like favors. If you help me, I owe you a point. It's also not like buying something with a clear price and an equivalent exchange. Feelings are unfair. No matter how much you give, you might not get anything in return. I can't reciprocate your love for me, but I'm very grateful for your feelings for me and the time and energy you've spent for me. Because in this world, every feeling deserves to be treated with gentleness, whether it's reasonable or not. Moreover, I'm not as good as you think. I have many flaws, but you haven't been with me for a long time, so you haven't discovered that in this world, there are many people who like because they don't understand and give up because they understand. Wasting time is wasting life. So in order to cherish time, you should give up on me. She still treated him as a friend and confided in him, hoping that he would turn back soon. Although she couldn't bear to say these words, she still had to say them. Xiao Ran shook his head. At this moment, no matter what she said, he would only see it as an excuse. He didn't believe that she didn't have any feelings for him. Qing Yin, are you saying this because of eldest brother? You don't have to worry about that imperial edict at all. As long as you're willing to be with me, I can deal with imperial father and imperial brother. If it really doesn't work, I will beg imperial mother. Xiao Ran. Chu Qingyin sharply cut him off, her eyes cold. When will you recognize the truth? His Highness and I love each other. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It doesn't matter if there's an imperial edict or not. Don't be so stubborn. Xiao Ran was a little flustered. Qingyin, don't be angry. He stepped forward, wanted to pull her, but she dodged him. A trace of hurt flashed through his eyes. Chu Qingyin avoided him and walked toward the door. But after taking a few steps, she suddenly stopped. Xiao Ran thought that there was a turning point for the better. Just as he was about to anxiously express his sincerity, he heard her say, Xiao Ran, I've always treated you as a friend. In the past, in the present, and in the future, it won't change. But in view of your unstable emotions, you're too paranoid. I don't think we should meet again in the near future. Don't come looking for me either. Wait until you've thought it through. Otherwise, if we meet on the road, I'll pretend that we don't know each other. Xiao Ran was stunned. He muttered, I just like you. Do you have to be so heartless? Chu Qingyin smiled bitterly. This is for your own good, and also for His Highness. I like His Highness very much, so I have to be responsible for our feelings. So in our lives, as long as there's something or someone that affects our feelings, I won't hesitate to stay away. So Xiao Ran, you still don't know what it feels like to like someone, so don't keep saying that you like them. As a friend, I'll give you one last sentence. Like is not possession. I'm leaving goodbye. Xiao Ran sat down dejectedly, looking as if he had lost his soul. He really wanted to urge her to stay, but since she had already said so much, there was no point in forcing her to stay. He had clearly worked hard, so why was it all for nothing in the end? Why was it that she didn't like him? Was he really such a failure? Hearing the door open and the figure gradually leave, Xiao Ran scratched his head in irritation. He tilted his head back and downed the wine in one gulp. After helping him close the door again, Chu Qingyin turned to go down the stairs. But out of the corner of her eye, she saw a light pink figure standing by the door. She subconsciously looked over. Jing Mingzhu's eyes were red as she stared at her with pain and hatred. Why was she here? Chu Qingyin was confused. Looking at her, she should have been standing there for quite some time. She should have heard everything that she needed to hear. Although she felt a little guilty that she had become the scapegoat for falling into the water, she wasn't the main culprit. She felt guilty because she wasn't the one who should be responsible. Because they weren't familiar with each other, Chu Qingyin only nodded at her before turning to leave. Jing Mingzhu tightly gripped the silk handkerchief in her hand. Her entire body was trembling with anger, and her heart was filled with disbelief. Ever since she had fallen into the water and been saved, she had been in a state of uncertainty. She didn't know how the palace would deal with her, but when she thought that it was the fourth prince who saved her, her heart was filled with incomparable sweetness. Later on, the palace issued an imperial edict, and she got what she wanted. Although she was only a concubine, she believed that with her family background, as long as she gave birth to a son, she would be promoted to the main wife. During this time, she had stayed in the palace and sent people to inquire about the fourth prince. It was a pity that he hadn't shown his face after the palace banquet. Until today, when she received news that he had left the palace, she immediately left the palace. She wanted to thank him for saving her life and meet him. But when she hurried over, She heard the news that she couldn't accept. Falling into the water had been a scheme, but she had been careless and had been mistaken for Chu Qingyan. So the fourth prince's heart had been set on Chu Qingyan. She had just been an accident caused by a mistake in the plan. Because of this bolt from the blue, she woke up from the ecstasy of the past few days. Some details that she had overlooked suddenly popped up. When the fourth prince found out that the person he had saved was her, he was completely stunned. His eyes even seemed to be filled with regret. That shocked and helpless look was something that she would never be able to forget for the rest of her life. She watched as Chu Qingyan disappeared from her sight, and her eyes slowly filled with hatred. Chu Qingyan, from today onwards, you and I cannot exist under the same sky. Chapter 1195. At the relay station, Pang Zhijing leaned against the back of the chair in boredom. Seeing Luer busy herself, she couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. Rest for a while. You've been busy since this morning. Aren't you tired? Luer wiped away her sweat and said with a smile, I'm not tired. This servant is organizing the things you'll need on your wedding day. Time is too tight. This servant has to hurry. We can't be looked down upon just because we're from another country. Hearing this, Pang Zhijing was slightly stunned and felt a little touched. Luer, you're so kind. Luer blushed, feeling flattered. What are you saying, Your Highness? I'm just doing my job. This was different. She had been here for so long, and all the maidservants by her side had followed her with a purpose. If they weren't monitoring her, they were forced to follow her. None of them really treated her like a princess. Only this silly girl was wholeheartedly good to her. She thought, if I leave in the future, what will she do? No, before I leave, I'll definitely settle Luer down. Just as she was thinking, Lu suddenly cried out. What's going on? Are we missing a set of jewelry? What should we do? We'll need it next month. Pang Zhijing wasn't that nervous. She said indifferently, then there's no need. It's tiring to wear so many things anyway. That's different. This represents status. No, we have to think of something quickly. Lu anxiously paced back and forth. Seeing how anxious she was, even more concerned than a bride-to-be like her, Pang Zhijing couldn't help but shake her head and stand up. She smiled and said, Let's go. Princess, where are you going? Luer was confused. Didn't you say that it's missing? Then it's definitely too late to order one now. I'll take you to pick a ready-made set. Luer thought that this was the only way. She hurriedly followed her master, who had already walked out of the room. Pang Zhijing stood at the door of the most famous Linlang pavilion in the capital. She glanced at the decor and nodded in satisfaction. Then, she led her people in. The shop assistant standing by the door knew that Pang Zhijing's identity was extraordinary when he saw her dress. He immediately welcomed her warmly. Miss, what do you want to buy? We have all the gold and silver jewelry you need. No matter if it's from Tianan or Dibei, I can find it for you. Pang Zhijing pointed at Luer, who was behind her, and said to him, Just follow her. If she wants anything, just pack it up for her. As she spoke, she took out an ingot of silver from her sleeve and gave it to him. Treat them well. The clerk took the silver with both hands, and his eyes lit up. This young lady was truly generous. He nodded and bowed, and became even more attentive. He turned to Luer and asked, Then, young lady, can you tell this humble one what you need? Luer glanced at her princess, and the latter waved her hand at her, telling her not to worry and to take a look around the store. Looks, she thought. If she transmigrated back to the modern world, she must take some with her. Then she would be rich. Any one of them would be priceless. With this thought in mind, she became even more excited. She walked slowly along the counter and finally reached a staircase. She thought for a moment and walked up directly. It was like a television show. The items upstairs were all treasures and were even more valuable. However, the stairs were quite steep. She was full recently and lacked exercise. Even taking a step was difficult for her. However, when she was about to step on the last step, she heard someone talking. The voice belonged to a man. She turned around and wanted to leave, but she stopped when she heard the conversation. Do you think that princess has a problem? There are so many good men in our Sichuan. Why did she choose Prince E, the sickly one? A voice criticized impolitely. His words were full of pity. Brother Wong is right. I heard that the princess is as beautiful as a flower and is a rare beauty. It's a pity that her eyesight is bad, and she chose a half-dead prince consort who has 1 foot in the coffin. What a pity. Another voice echoed. Brother Lee, you agree too, don't you? I have a relative who works in the Imperial Hospital. He said it's a miracle that Prince E is still alive. If it weren't for those precious herbs, he would have died long ago. My relative also said that His Majesty didn't expect him to have descendants. That so-called royal brother said in a low voice, his tone faintly showing off. His mouth was full of my relative, as if he couldn't wait for others to know how glorious it was for him to have a relative working in the palace. Is Prince E so sick that he can't have sex? Then it's a pity that the princess is going to be a widow at such a young age. The man laughed wretchedly. Although his voice was low, it was very cold. What do you think? She's even out of breath when she walks. How could she do that? The brother Wong laughed and then said in a low voice, Let me tell you something. I heard from my relative that Prince Yi's birth mother was actually a guilty palace maid. If it weren't for seducing His Majesty, there wouldn't be... Before Brother Wong could finish his sentence, a vase suddenly flew at him. He staggered and almost fell flat on his face. His friend beside him hurriedly supported him. The two of them turned around at the same time. A beautiful girl suddenly appeared at the top of the stairs. Brother Wong, who was hit by the vase, said in exasperation, You crazy woman, why did you hit me for no reason? I threw it at your dirty mouth. I threw it at your sour grapes. I threw it at you because you can't eat grapes. I threw it at you because you can't stand others living well. Pang Zhijing put her hands on her waist and looked around for something to hit him with. The brother Wong took down his hand and found blood on it. He flew into a rage. Who are you? Tell me your name. I'm going to kill you. Pang Zhijing rolled her eyes at him. Do you think you're a Jianghu man? You can't just tell me your name. I'm not that stupid. Also, I advise you not to know who I am. Otherwise, you'll have the impulse to jump off the building. The other man saw that she didn't have a maid with her, and she was a stranger. He was tempted. He poked his friend and said, Brother Wong, this girl looks good. Do you want to play with her and sell her to the brothel keeper? Aren't you short of money recently? You can take the opportunity to make some money and use it as your medical expenses. The brother Wong heard this and secretly had an idea. Although the girl in front of him was a little unruly, she was as beautiful as the top hostess of Moon Hotel. The two of them often did this kind of thing because they were local tyrants. They exchanged glances and hit it off. They looked at Pang Zhijing with a sinister smile. Chapter 1196. Pang Zhijing did not notice the two's evil intentions. She just happened to see a feather duster and immediately rushed over to grab it. Then, she pointed at the two and said, Apologize to me right now. Apologize? Are you crazy? The person who got hit was me, not you. You still have the nerve to ask us to apologize. Brother Wong stood up with the help of his friend and looked at her like she was an idiot. Pang Zhijing snorted coldly. I'm not asking you to apologize to me. I want you to admit that what you said just now was false and promise that you won't speak ill of others behind their backs. Who do you think you are? Was he an honorable man? But others don't care as much as you do. Brother Wong muttered. No, you two have the nerve to speak ill of others, but don't have the nerve to admit it. You can't even be considered men. Don't speak ill of others behind their backs. Even a 3-year-old child would understand this principle. I think you should go back to the furnace and be reborn. Pang Zhijing held the feather duster and really wanted to give each of them a good beating. Hearing this, the two laughed. Brother Wong slowly walked towards her. If you want to know whether we are men or not, it's very simple. Just follow us. Pang Zhijing watched as the two approached with ill intentions. Alarm bells rang in her heart. What do you want to do? Well, at this moment, in the meeting room of Linlang Pavilion, all the managers were gathered together, waiting for the boss to give instructions. The boss behind Linlang Pavilion was none other than Xiao. At this moment, he was flipping through the accounts for the past 2 days. Everyone did not dare to make a sound and waited with bated breath. However, At this moment, a guard walked in and reported to his master, "Lord, the princess is fighting with someone here." Xiao Ho's hand that was flipping through the pages paused. He felt a headache coming on. When will this troublemaker stop? Bring her in. Yes. Pang Zhijing saw that the situation was not good. Just as she was about to turn around and run down to call for help, two people held her shoulders. She could not move and could only move her mouth, touching a woman in broad daylight. "Aren't you afraid of being arrested?" Brother Wang laughed. "Why don't you ask who I, Wang Bo, am?" The other one also laughed. "Have you heard of the capital's two tyrants? Unfortunately, it's just the two of us. Even if we kidnap you from the streets, no one will dare to make a sound. So, if you don't want to suffer, you'd better come with us obediently." Just as they finished speaking, the two of them suddenly fainted. Once Pang Zhijing regained her freedom, she immediately retreated. Only then did she realize that there was an additional person upstairs. She found him rather familiar. "You are? Princess, I'm one of the Lord's guards. The Lord is waiting for you in the meeting room," the guard said respectfully. "What? Xiao was here?" She blinked and wanted to run away. "Well, I still have something to do. Can you see if we can do it next time?" "Princess, please don't make things difficult for your subordinate," the guard said methodically. Pang Zhijing could only accept her fate. She took a deep breath and said, "Let's go then." When she saw Xiao Ho, Pang Zhijing revealed a youthful smile and waved at him. "What a coincidence! You're also here." Xiao Ho glanced at her coldly, ignoring her enthusiasm. His gaze made her feel guilty. "Unfortunately, this glittering jewels pavilion is this prince's business." "Wow, you're so amazing. You actually know how to do business." She pretended to praise him. "Speak human. You're so cunning. You must be a profiteer." She stopped her exaggerated smile and snorted. Xiao raised his eyebrows. "This prince hasn't even said anything about you yet, but you're already randomly accusing me. What do you want to say about me?" She blinked guiltily. "Didn't I tell you to obediently stay at the relay station? What are you doing here? You even fought with others and caused trouble. Do you think that no one can control you now that you're bold?" Xiao Ho's tone was strict as he criticized her. She had wanted to complain about the two hooligans, but when she heard what he said, she felt even more aggrieved. She clenched her fists, lowered her head, and said in a muffled voice, "In your eyes, am I just a troublemaker who only knows how to cause trouble and bring trouble to others?" Thinking that she was unconvinced and was quibbling, Xiao Ho coldly said, "Don't tell me you haven't caused enough trouble." This sentence was like a heavy hammer that smashed into her heart, causing her thoughts of explaining to disappear. After Xiao Ho finished speaking, he found that she didn't respond. He looked up at her and saw that her head was lowered as her entire body was filled with resistance. He couldn't help feeling even more disappointed in her. "You're still throwing a tantrum with me?" Pang Zhijing raised her head with red eyes. She said in a sobbing voice, "You bastard, if I ever talk to you again, I won't be called Pang Zhijing." After saying that, she turned around and ran away. Xiao Ho was stunned on the spot. In front of him was still her tear-filled face. What happened to her? Normally, she wouldn't have such a big reaction when he said a few words to her. He rubbed his forehead as he felt a headache coming on. At this moment, the guard standing at the side hesitantly walked forward. "Lord, you seem to have wronged the princess." Xiao Ho looked at him in confusion. "What happened?" "The two people who had a conflict with the princess just now are famous ruffians in the capital. They seem to have thoughts about the princess that they shouldn't have. When this subordinate arrived, they were making a move on the princess. If this subordinate was a step later, I'm afraid that the princess would have been harmed by them." The guard reported truthfully. Xiao Ho was startled. Could it be that he had really wronged her? But as for what exactly happened, perhaps only those two ruffians know. The guard continued, "Bring those two into the secret room and interrogate them yourself." Xiao Ho said with a cold face. Yes. In the dark secret room, Wang Bo and Li Run were awakened by someone splashing water on them. When they opened their eyes, they saw all kinds of terrifying torture instruments. The brazier was lit, and the two instantly woke up. "Where's this place? Who are you?" Wangbo looked at the several men in black who walked in. He was so scared that he shrank into the corner. Just now, what happened between you and that girl? The man in black asked. After Wangbo and Li Ren looked at each other, Wangbo began to cry and complain. I don't know what happened to that girl. As soon as she came up, she smashed a vase. Sir, look, my head is still bleeding. Saying that, he stretched out his head to show him. The man in black kicked him down. Tell me honestly, what did you do to her before? We didn't do anything. The two of them said with a guilty conscience. Only one of you can live. Whoever tells the truth first will be spared. Now, I'll give you a cup of tea's time. When the time is up, you two will go to hell together. As soon as the man in black finished speaking, the people standing next to him pulled out their swords and stared at them like tigers watching their prey. When one's fear reached the extreme and was forced to the brink of death, the weakness of human nature would be completely exposed. Chapter 1197. I'll talk. Wangbo said Princess Nansong was as beautiful as a flower, but chose a short-lived son-in-law. Li Ren, you've gone too far. Didn't you say Prince Yi had 1 foot in the coffin and Princess Nansong could only live as a widow if she married him? Didn't you say Prince Yi was weak and couldn't have sex? You also said your relative worked in the Imperial Hospital and said Prince Yi wouldn't live long. Li Ren, don't talk nonsense. Don't you know what you said? Didn't you say Prince Yi's mother seduced his majesty with her beauty? That's why Prince Yi was born. The two argued for a long time. They didn't know what these black-clothed men wanted to do, but they couldn't control their mouths and retold everything they said. After arguing until his mouth was dry, Wangbo said with grievance, Sir, that's all we talked about. It had nothing to do with that girl. She threw a vase at me without saying anything. The back of my head is still bleeding. Li Ren echoed. Yes, this woman is too overbearing. She actually apologized to us and promised that we would never speak ill of Prince Yi and that concubine. Otherwise, she would not be so polite to us. We are men. How could we bear such humiliation? That's why. Before Li Ren could finish, his sleeve was pulled. He looked at Wangbo in confusion. Wangbo pointed at the black-clothed men with a trembling finger. Li Ren looked up in confusion. The black-clothed men who were standing lazily just now were glaring at them as if they were enemies. They looked like they were going to tear them apart. The two immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. Sir, please spare us. Please spare us. Xiao stood outside the secret room with a gloomy face. When he thought of her stubborn and wronged eyes before she left, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. It turned out that she did it for him. He blamed her wrongly. For so many years, no one had ever stood up for him. They would seek justice for him because of someone's slander. He didn't expect it to be a little girl like her. He felt a strange emotion in his heart. It was a little warm and a little scratchy. The guard walked out and asked, Lord, what should we do with these two? Xiao put away the emotions in his heart and said with a cold face, Aren't they local tyrants? Let them have a taste of what they have done before. The guard was stunned. These two people had committed all kinds of crimes. Master wanted to give them a taste of their own medicine. In the past, it wasn't that no one had ever gossiped about him behind his back, but the Lord rarely paid attention to them. So this time, the Lord was venting for the princess, right? The guard felt that this conjecture was very reasonable, so he immediately accepted the order. Lu held the box in her hands and followed her princess. Ever since they left Linlang Pavilion, the princess's complexion had been very bad. She had never seen the princess in such a desolate mood before. Princess, are you all right? Lu asked worriedly. She remained silent. Her heart had sunk to the bottom of the valley, and her mood was extremely low. Lu knew that she was in a bad mood, so she stopped bothering her. However, at this moment, Lu seemed to have seen someone and immediately pointed to her. Princess, look, isn't that person Miss Chu's servant girl? Pang Zhijing raised her head and looked in the direction she was pointing. It was indeed Qingyan's servant girl, and she seemed to be called Jasper. Jasper had never left her side, so Qingyan should be nearby. She couldn't help but start searching for Chu Qingyan's figure in the crowd. She saw a young man dressed in red walking in front of Jasper and chatting with her from time to time. Men and women of all ages passing by couldn't help but cast their gazes on the young man. One elegant young man. He was really good-looking. He would attract attention even if he dressed as a man or a woman. Pang Zhijing immediately went up to her and secretly patted her on the shoulder. Chu Qingyan turned around. When she saw that it was her, she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. What a coincidence. You're out shopping too. Yes, I'm out shopping with this girl. It's a pity that we met with an accident on the way, and it's quite depressing. However, once I see a handsome man like you, my wounded heart is instantly healed. Sure enough, beautiful people and things are pleasing to the eye. Pang Zhijing was in a good mood as she teased her. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. I'm clearly the one dressed as a man. Why am I the little wife instead? That's because this young master has a strong aura. All right, do you need anything? If not, let's find a place to sit. How about it? Pang Zhijing invited her warmly. How can I not have time for a date with a beauty? Chu Qingyan opened her fan and waved it suavely. Also, I have something to tell you. The tea house up ahead is pretty good. I'll treat you to some tea. Pang Zhijing agreed readily. Thus, the two of them walked towards the tea house together. A handsome man and a beautiful woman had always been the center of attention. The two of them were the center of attention all the way until they arrived at a private room in the tea house. It's so stressful to be with you. Didn't you notice that those girls are all like wolves and tigers? If looks could kill, I probably wouldn't be alive anymore. My heart is so bitter. Pang Zhijing exaggeratedly covered her chest and moaned in pain. Chu Qingyan poured her a cup of tea and said with a helpless smile, It's not as exaggerated as you say. I feel like I'm the victim here. Those men all want to squeeze me out and take my place. So, we're the same. Let's not tease each other. Pang Zhijing laughed mischievously and took a sip of the tea to moisten her throat. Only then did she get to the main topic. All right, what did you say you wanted to tell me? Chu Qingyan smiled mysteriously and deliberately teased her. Guess. You're still playing this game with me. Pang Zhijing propped up her chin with both hands and looked at her lecherously. Are you planning to dump your highness and live with me? Chu Qingyan was amused. This girl's words were really too interesting. She didn't pretend to be reserved and serious like those noble young misses. Jasper interjected from the side. Princess, you can say this in front of us. Don't mention it in front of our lord. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. What? Could it be that he'll be rough with a weak woman like me? Pang Zhijing clearly didn't believe her. Lord won't touch you, but there's no guarantee that he won't touch his highness, the third prince. Jasper said seriously. Pang Zhijing subconsciously swallowed. That Xiao Su loved his wife so much that he might really do that. She should take it easy. Chu Qingyan saw that she was really frightened and couldn't help but be amused. Jasper is just teasing you. Don't be so stupid as to believe her. Pang Zhijing's mouth twitched. She didn't think it was a joke. Xiao Su was too scary. Chu Qingyan smiled and shook her head. Then she said to Jasper, Bring Miss Lu out for a walk. I have some private matters to discuss with the princess. After they left, Pang Zhijing impatiently said, Beauty, they've all been sent away. What do you want to say? Don't keep me in suspense. Chapter 1198. All right, I won't play riddles with you. What I want to tell you is that the things that you asked us to prepare for you have already been completed. She playfully stuck out 5 fingers. 5? Pang Zhijing suddenly had an epiphany. You're saying that 5 out of the 7 keys have been completed? Smart. You guessed it right. Chu Qingyan spared no effort in praising her. Pang Zhijing stood up with a whoa and wanted to shout out in surprise, but she was afraid of being heard by others, so she could only cover her mouth and jump and stomp her feet in circles. That's great, that's great. She could finally escape from this exquisite lock and no longer have to be restricted by others. Then she would be able to run away without any worries. She covered her mouth and screamed out silently. Chu Qingyan was amused by her excited and cute look and being influenced by her emotions. The annoyance that she felt at Xiao Ran's place was instantly reduced by half. After Pang Zhijing digested this news, she was still incomparably excited. She turned around and pulled Qingyan up and brought her to jump in the private room, dancing with joy. Qingyan, it's so good to meet you. You're my lucky star, my lucky messenger. Pang Zhijing stretched out her hands and hugged her tightly. Her eyes were moist and filled with gratitude. Chu Qingyan could tell that she was sobbing. Although she did not quite understand how she felt, she still reached out and hugged her back. It's all right. All the misfortunes will pass. You have to believe that the more pain you feel in life now, the more enjoyment you will have in the future. Let's start with bitterness before sweetness. This is the easiest way to be satisfied and learn to cherish. Qingyan, you're like a philosopher. Pang Zhijing secretly wiped her tears and tried her best to smile. Forced by life, that's why I'm self-taught. She teased herself. After the two hugged each other, they separated and sat down. Chu Qingyan passed her a handkerchief and said with a smile, "Wipe it. There's nothing embarrassing about crying tears of joy." Pang Zhijing took it embarrassedly and gently wiped her tears. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile when she saw this. This kind of pure girl who showed all her emotions on her face lived the simplest life and was also the easiest to be happy. His heart was free of shrewdness, and he lived freely. She couldn't help but feel a little envious. The wood spirit said that the remaining two might be a bit difficult, so it asked you to wait a few more days. But I can definitely forge it this month. Pang Zhijing waved her hand. There's no need to rush. I'm already very happy to be able to produce it. It proves that there's hope for unlocking it. She nodded, appreciating her open-minded attitude. The two of them drank tea with pastries. The environment was very peaceful, making one feel relaxed and at ease. Pang Zhijing was a little absent-minded. Chu Qingyan saw it in her eyes. Although it was strange, she did not ask. In her opinion, everyone had their own secrets. Even if they were friends, she should not interfere. If she needed help, she would ask for it. At this time, Pang Zhijing seemed to have made an important decision. She looked at Chu Qingyan with a very serious expression. Qingyan, I have something that I need your help with. I just don't know if you are willing to hear it. Chu Qingyan put down her teacup and kept a relaxed smile on her face. She said solemnly, "Tell me. As long as I can help, I will not refuse." Although she said this, Pang Zhijing still felt uncertain. But for this matter, other than her, she didn't know who else she could ask for help. After a moment of silence, Pang Zhijing mustered up her courage and asked seriously and pleadingly, "Qingyan, before the wedding, I want to leave this place. Can you help me?" Chu Qingyan was stunned by her words. "You mean you want to run away from the wedding? Did I hear wrongly?" Pang Zhijing nodded heavily. "That's right. I want to run away from the wedding. I don't want to be a princess in marriage." Chu Qingyan digested this important news with difficulty. She asked in disbelief, "Why? Didn't you come to Sichuan to establish diplomatic relations between the two countries? And this husband was personally chosen by you?" She knew that she would be shocked. Pang Zhijing rested her cheeks on her hands and squeezed the flesh on both sides of her face into small balls. She looked very upset. "Qingyan, if I said that it was not my intention to be a princess in marriage, would you believe me?" "I believe you," Chu Qingyan said without hesitation. Under Pang Zhijing's shocked gaze, she slowly said, "A political marriage is like an equivalent exchange between two countries. The person in power makes the decision and doesn't care what the person or thing in exchange thinks. This is power politics." Pang Zhijing nodded repeatedly. "So, I feel that I am a sacrifice. I don't want to be a puppet anymore. To tell you the truth, this exquisite lock on my feet was put on me by Crown Prince Pang Huang. It was to prevent me from running away. Back then, he ordered me to choose the King of England as the Emperor's son-in-law at the palace banquet. It was to take revenge on the King of England for embarrassing him on the battlefield." When Chu Qingyan heard her say this, she found the answers to her previous doubts. She couldn't help but pity Pang Zhijing. It was really hard for her to climb and roll in the whirlpool of power at such a young age. Then what about Xiao Ho's side? "I can see that you seem to be interested in him. You can bear to leave him?" This was what she was most curious about. From the interactions between the two of them, it was as if they were a young couple. Logically speaking, The person she was marrying should be the one she liked and wouldn't run away from the marriage. Pang Zhijing was slightly stunned. Then, she uncomfortably looked away. Her hands touched her fingers as she said in a low voice, "He was tricked by me and was forced to marry me. A forcibly picked melon is not sweet. I don't want to shamelessly stick to him. So even if I like him, I'd rather not have love that can't be reciprocated. Furthermore, you can rest assured that my disappearance will not affect the marriage between the two countries. Because even if I fall, there will be thousands of princesses standing up. Therefore, I dare to guarantee that as long as I disappear, there will soon be someone to replace me. In any case, your Xixian only wants the Southern Song Princess. It doesn't matter who it is." As she said this, she raised her smiling face. The disappointment on her face was swept away. She smiled brightly and said, "Qingyan, do you know? People shouldn't only live for love. There are many beautiful things in this world. Friendship, family, freedom, and everything else that is worth being nostalgic for." Zhijing. Chu Qingyan was a little surprised by her thoughts. "So, Qingyan, you don't have to worry about me. Maybe I'll only marry one person in my lifetime, but I can like many people. I know very well that I have feelings for Xiao Ho, but he's not the right person for me. I'll treasure this throbbing, but as long as I leave here, my feelings for him will become a memory in my heart. But slowly, it will no longer occupy a place in my heart." Speaking to this point, she touched her head and said somewhat embarrassedly, "People are just so fickle. But isn't that the truth? Could it be that I can still force him to like me? If we're not suitable for each other, then we shouldn't make each other suffer. If the heavens had feelings, the heavens would grow old. If people had feelings, they would die early. So, she should just be a heartless little rascal." Chapter 1199. Chu Qingyan felt that Pang Zhijing's words today had completely overturned her understanding of her. She could feel Pang Zhijing's strong heart hidden under her weak appearance. Since she was able to make such a decision, she must be mentally prepared to deal with the hardships that awaited her after escaping from the marriage. After Pang Zhijing finished speaking, she felt that the other party was looking at her with a scrutinizing gaze. Her scalp tightened, and she reached out to push her. "What's with your expression? Don't you recognize me?" Chu Qingyan reached out to pat her hand and said rather emotionally, "It feels like I just got to know you today. This makes me feel like I need to get to know you again." Pang Zhijing was amused. "What are you talking about? As if I'm a strange creature. Furthermore, what do you mean by this? Could it be that in your eyes, I'm just a silly, happy princess who doesn't care about anything? No, you're more mature than I imagined. Furthermore, I realize that our views are very similar. No wonder I felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity when I first saw you." Thinking back to their first meeting, she felt that this little girl was particularly pleasing to the eye. Now that she looked at her, there was indeed a reason. Pang Zhijing covered her face and said embarrassedly, "Don't say that. I'll be proud." Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. What an interesting girl. After laughing and joking around, Pang Zhijing asked seriously, "Then can you help me with my request?" Looking at those pure eyes, Chu Qingyan really wanted to agree. Such an open-minded girl should soar in the sky like a bird and not be bound to this small piece of land. However, this matter was of great importance. It wasn't a simple marriage. It involved the stability of two countries. She couldn't agree hastily. "Zhijing, don't be impatient. I can't give you an answer right away. I'll go back and discuss it with His Highness. I'll give you an answer in 2 days. Is that okay?" Chu Qingyan negotiated. Pang Zhijing immediately nodded. What was wrong with that? What she was most worried about was that she would refuse. This kind of thing will be troublesome for anyone. Her promise to consider, it was already her biggest surprise. "Then please help me put in a good word for me in front of King Ying. Please." She put her palms together and begged sincerely. Chu Qingyan didn't care about people's feelings when he did things, so it was useless no matter how much she tried to persuade him. However, in order not to make him worry, Chu Qingyan agreed. "I've been out for some time. It's time for me to go back. If there's anything you need, send someone to the Wang Fu to find me." Chu Qingyin stood up and bid her farewell. I still need to stay here for a while. You can go back first. Be careful on the road. Although the two of them got along very well and were reluctant to part just like that, they would still have the opportunity to meet again. After getting up and sending Chu Qingyin off, Pang Zhijing felt that she had solved two major problems in her heart. Her whole body felt relaxed, and she had the leisure to slowly sip her tea and eat her snacks. Princess Miss Chu is so gentle and kind. She's not like those young ladies from rich families who put on airs and act high and mighty. Lu returned to the private room to serve. Thinking back to Chu Qingyin nodding and smiling at her before she left, she felt her entire heart warm up. Pang Zhijing nodded in agreement. Out of all the women in the capital, she's the most pleasing to the eye. I don't know why, but I always feel that she's very close, as if I've seen her before. This feeling is really wonderful. Thinking back to the first time they met, she had a feeling of regret that they hadn't met sooner. Princess, you can interact more with this young lady in the future. Lu suggested sincerely. Pang Zhijing raised her eyebrows and moved closer to Lu. She narrowed her eyes and asked, "Is it because you've taken a fancy to her master after meeting her today and want to abandon me?" Lu's face was full of helplessness. Princess, what are you thinking? This servant thinks that you have no relatives in the capital. It's rare for you to meet such a close friend, so you should interact more so that you won't feel lonely here. Pang Zhijing drew back and pursed her lips. This reason is barely passable. I won't pursue it. Lu agreed happily. Pang Zhijing couldn't help but smile when she saw her emotions expressed on her face. At this moment, Lu's gaze fell outside the window, and she exclaimed in surprise, "Princess, aren't those the guards by Lord's side? Are they looking for us?" Pang Zhijing followed her gaze and saw that they were indeed the people by Xiao's side. She said unhappily, "What they're looking for is none of our business. Even if they're looking for us, we don't have to care. Who does Xiao think he is? When he wants to see me, I'll come at a moment's notice. When he doesn't want to see me, he'll send me away. It's not like I'm an unwanted child." Lu looked at her princess's flustered and exasperated appearance and asked carefully, "Did you and Lord have a fight?" Pang Zhijing harumphed. "I don't care to fight with him. He can do whatever he wants. This lady doesn't care." She was still sullen for being lectured by him for no reason today. She had a belly full of anger that she had nowhere to vent. Lu muttered in her heart. It was obvious that they had a fight, but the princess still refused to admit it. "Let's go." Pang Zhijing suddenly stood up and said. Before Lu could react, she had already walked towards the door. "Princess, where are you going? Aren't you going back to the relay station? I don't want to go back so early. Accompany me to walk around. We'll walk for as long as we can." She didn't want to be found by him. She didn't want to see him now. Let's see what he can do if he can't find her. She hated it the most when he played a game of cat and mouse, always teasing her with confidence. The people who went out to search returned to report. "Lord, our people have searched the entire street, but we still haven't found the princess. Do you think something happened to her?" The guard guessed. However, just as he finished speaking, he received a cold stare from Lord. He realized that he had said something wrong and hurriedly lowered his head. "There's no need to search. She hid on purpose. You won't be able to find her." Xiao knew that she was still blaming him for what happened today. He didn't know how to dissolve the ice between the two of them. He felt rather helpless in his heart. The guard raised his head and saw his master's troubled expression. After thinking for a while, he said, "Lord, the princess should still be angry. You just have to lower your stance and take the initiative to coax her. Perhaps her anger will dissipate." Coax her? Xiao felt inexplicably absurd. He, Xiao, had lived for so many years and had never coaxed anyone. Why should he coax her? The guard scratched his head. "This subordinate usually sees my brothers treat their wives like this. As long as the man is willing to say something nice, no matter how angry she is, the couple will quickly reconcile." "You talk a little too much today," Xiao said coldly. The guard immediately shut up. How could subordinates like them be involved in Lord matters? He must have been hot-headed to say such things. Thus, he immediately retreated. Xiao stood there alone, his head lowered as he pondered. Should I lower myself and say something nice? Could it really work? Chapter 1200. When Chu Qingyan got back to the mansion, it was almost time for dinner. Before she entered the yard, she could hear the laughter inside. She paused and listened to the sounds inside. Slowly, a smile appeared on her face, and she walked in quickly. Mr. Chu asked, "Son-in-law, why do cows fly in the sky?" "Xiao Su," Mr. Chu said, "that's because Daddy is blowing on the ground." "Ha ha ha ha, Xiao Su," Mr. Chu said, "let me test you again. Who is the mother of the rice?" "Xiao Su," Mr. Chu said, "it's peanuts." "Because of peanuts." "Ha ha ha, Xiao Su." The moment Chu Qingyan entered the room, she heard her father's deafening laughter. She was amused. "Dad, are you playing a brain teaser?" "Yes, I am playing with a scallion upside down. But he is so stupid because he can't even answer a single question. Don't you think he is stupid?" Mr. Chu was laughing so hard that he was convulsing. Obviously, he had not gotten over the fun of guessing the questions. Mrs. Chu explained with a smile, "Your father is the only one entertaining himself. His Highness is just accompanying him." Chu Qingyan thought to herself that this iceberg was so smart. She had never won when it came to brain teasers with him. He must have been giving in to Daddy on purpose. She walked over to Xiao Su and chuckled. "How come you have time to keep my parents company? I'm almost done with the paperwork, so I'm waiting for you to have dinner together. Your parents are here, too, so I can chat with them." Xiao Su smiled at her and ordered the servants to serve dinner. She suddenly felt that this iceberg seemed to be the man of the house. He took care of her parents for her and made all the arrangements for her. He was so different from the man she had met a few years ago. He had changed so much for her without her knowing it. She remembered reading a saying that if a person truly loved you, he would change for the better for you so that you could give yourself to him without worry. Today, she had a deep understanding of this saying. When she looked at Xiao Su, she couldn't help but feel touched. "Kai Kai, what are you waiting for? Come and eat." Mr. Chu suddenly leaned in front of her and looked at her with his face enlarged. She jumped in fright. She was both angry and amused at the same time. "Father, don't get so close to me. You'll scare me to death." "Oh," Mr. Chu replied. Then he turned to Xiao Su and said, "Son-in-law, your wife is bullying me." Chu Qingyan's face stiffened. At this time, there was a problem between his wife and father-in-law. How should he solve it? In other people's families, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships were all forgotten when it came to him. Xiao Su quietly changed the topic. "This sweet and sourport fillet seems to be getting cold." With that, Chu Machen's father disappeared and reappeared at the dining table with 2 pieces of tenderloin in his mouth. Chu Qingyan secretly gave her big iceberg a thumbs up. "You're so smart, so smart." Xiao Su smiled and shook his head. Throughout the meal, the atmosphere was lively and lively, filled with laughter and cheers. After the meal, Chu Qingyan accompanied her mother for a stroll in the courtyard to help her digest the food. "Mother, you and father have been in the capital for so long, but I haven't asked you if you're used to living here?" Chu Qingyan asked as she supported her mother's arm. Mrs. Chu smiled lovingly. "It's very quiet here, and the servants treat us very well. There's nothing to be used to." At this point, Mrs. Chu's gaze became a little unfocused, as if she was reminiscing. "Actually, compared to the days in Mao Village where we didn't have enough to eat and sleep, now we're living a life of luxury and don't have to worry about food and water. It's already very good. People have to know how to be content with what they have in order to be happy." Her mother's words reminded her of 5 years ago when she had just transmigrated here. Every day, she had to worry about making ends meet, and her mother had to go out early and come back late every day to work for others. It was very tiring. She was very glad that they had walked out of those difficult days. Mother's right. We have to be prepared for danger in times of peace and be content with what we have. She nodded heavily. Perhaps it was because the children of the poor had matured early, so Kai Kai had always been very sensible. If it weren't for her, she and Yuan Jun might still be in that small village, suffering. Mrs. Chu reached out and patted her daughter's hand. It's been hard on you all these years. Mother, what are you saying? It's not hard at all. I have Big Ice to help me with everything. If I cause trouble, he'll take care of it for me. So, as you can see, your daughter is actually quite lawless. She tried her best to say it in a joking tone so that her mother wouldn't worry about her. Mrs. Chu pursed her lips and laughed. You little girl, you're still so naughty. However, your father and I have seen how His Highness treats you. He also takes good care of us. It's true that a son-in-law is half a son. Although your father and I only have one daughter, His Highness is like our son. He's very filial, and my wish has been fulfilled. If he dares to treat you badly, I don't want him anymore. She snorted. What nonsense are you saying? Where else can you find someone as clean and caring as His Highness? Mrs. Chu couldn't help but feel indignant for Xiao Su. Chu Qingyan found it funny, but she put on an aggrieved expression. Mother, have you forgotten about your daughter now that you have a son-in-law? How can you side with an outsider? Mrs. Chu was amused. You're jealous? Ah, you've really been spoiled by His Highness. She smiled shyly. By the way, did His Highness tell you when the wedding will be held? She had been worried about this matter. He did. We originally planned to hold the wedding in the capital, but later we felt that it would be better to hold it in Lianqing. This way, we can save a lot of trouble and don't have to entertain those unimportant people. After the two countries are connected by marriage next month, we can set off for home. She truthfully told her mother about their decision. That's good. When the time comes, you could be a bride with peace of mind. Mother will definitely marry you off grandly. All these years, when she had nothing to do, she had been studying marriage etiquette in order to use it for her daughter's marriage. Mother, I'm not in a hurry. Why are you in a hurry? She said embarrassedly. Silly child, Mother will only be at ease when I personally hand you over to His Highness. How can I not be in a hurry? Mrs. Chu reached out to touch her forehead and chuckled. Okay, I got it. At this time, the two of them walked back to the room and heard Mr. Chu's stomping voice. No, I'm not going to play here. I want to play again. Your father is playing chess with His Highness again. He's so bad at chess and keeps going back on his moves. Only His Highness has the patience to endure it. If it were someone else, they would have already lost their temper. Mrs. Chu sighed with emotion. Chu Qingyan looked at the big ice cube sitting under the light, as calm as water, and countless warm currents surged in her heart. At this moment, Xiao Su seemed to have sensed her gaze. He raised his head and looked in her direction. His brows relaxed, and he gave her a faint smile. Then, he was quickly pulled away by Chu Machen's father to watch the game. With such a husband, what more could a wife ask for? Chapter 1201. After sending off her parents, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su stood side by side in the courtyard, admiring the moonlight and the night scenery. Big Ice Cube, don't you find Father annoying that he's always pestering you? I think he likes you too much. That's why he's always circling around you. She tilted her head and hesitated for a while before pouring her heart out. Xiao Su looked at the specks of stars in the distance. He slowly opened his mouth and asked in a matter-of-fact tone, Why would I find it annoying? Aren't we a family? These words instantly lit up her eyes. She nodded repeatedly. Right, a family. A faint smile flashed across Xiao Su's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Why did fourth brother look for you today? He asked calmly. Are you jealous? She poked his arm and smiled proudly. Xiao Su looked at her and said in confusion, You're thinking too much. I heard that he left the palace today without telling anyone. The palace is in a mess because he can't be found. Big Ice Cube really doesn't know how to be romantic, but she was more curious. It's just leaving the palace. Is there a need to make such a fuss? I heard that his health hasn't been very good since the day of the palace banquet. He's been recuperating in the palace all this time. If he suddenly disappeared, it would indeed cause people to panic. At the mention of this fourth brother, Xiao Su had an indescribable feeling. He felt that the older he lived, the less mature and steady he should be at his age. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Chu Qingyan's heart thumped. No wonder his complexion was so bad when I saw him today. So he really was sick. It's just that our meeting today wasn't pleasant at all." Xiao Su raised his brows and looked at her, waiting for her to continue. She didn't know how to say it. She felt a little embarrassed. In the end, she sighed lightly and looked into his eyes. Pursing her lips, she said, "Today, Xiao Ran confessed to me." Xiao Su's pupils shrank, and then he slowly narrowed his eyes, revealing a dangerous aura. What does he want to do? At first, he apologized on behalf of his mother, saying that falling into the water wasn't an accident and that it was his mother's plan. Then, as he spoke, he confessed, "I'm not surprised that he has feelings for me. He had already revealed some signs before, but I was surprised by his thoughts. I really don't know what's going on in that head of his." Speaking up to this point, she was a little angry. She tugged at his sleeve and said indignantly, "Which eye of his saw that the two of us are together on the surface? You have no feelings for me, and we are the sacrificial lambs of a marriage alliance? What makes him think that I have feelings for him? He even said that as long as I nodded, he would have a way to make our marriage invalid. Was he kidding me? Am I dreaming in broad daylight?" She took a breath and continued, "I really don't know what he learned in the past 5 years. His head is full of fantasies. He used to be quite cute. How did he become so crooked?" Hearing the little fellow's complaints, Xiao Su's gaze darkened. The little fellow was right. What was CD thinking? After talking for a long time, Big Ice Cube did not speak. She looked at him, her expression tense, as if she was a little angry. She pulled at his sleeve uneasily. "Big Ice Cube, what's wrong? Are you very angry?" Oh no, she couldn't help but tell Big Ice Cube about this. Wasn't she too reckless? However, in her heart, she was a little afraid of Xiao Ran's confident look. She would rather believe him than not believe him. If he really did try to destroy her marriage with Big Ice Cube, then it would be terrible. Moreover, she didn't plan to hide it from Big Ice Cube. There shouldn't be any secrets between the two of them. Moreover, this matter was no longer about pure love. It involved underhanded means. Therefore, instead of waiting until something happened, it was better to tell Big Ice Cube clearly from the beginning to prevent any accidents in the future. "I am very disappointed in CD," Xiao Su slowly said. Even though he knew that the little fellow was his fiancé, he still brazenly expressed his intentions and wanted to snatch his little fellow away. From this, it could be seen that he did not take this imperial brother of his to heart at all. Moreover, he knew that he could not do it, but he still did it. This was the first time she heard such a tone from him. It carried a sigh, a little annoyance, and self-mockery. Big Ice Cube, he's too used to me giving in to him, so he takes it for granted that everything around me, including people, as long as he likes it, I'll give it to him without a care. He takes my care of him for granted and blackmails me." Xiao Su chuckled, his voice a little cold. "He's like an ingrate. This reminds me of a small story. There was a person who gave 10 to a beggar outside his door every day. Then it became 5 a day, and then it became 2 One day, the beggar asked him, 'Why are you giving me less and less money?' He said, 'Before I was single, so I gave you 10 Then I had a wife, so I could only give you 5 Then I had a son, so I could only give you 2 When the beggar heard this, he was furious and said, 'How can you use my money to support your wife and child?' She slowly told the story, shaking her head and sighing. A person's greed knows no bounds. When you continue to be good to a person, after a long time, they will take it as your responsibility. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant." Then she raised her head and said to him, "Isn't this very similar to the present Xiao Ran?" Xiao Su did not answer. He just put his hand on her head and gently rubbed it. Feeling the deep disappointment on Big Ice Cube, she was suddenly angry at Xiao Ran. Big Ice Cube gave him the little familial love and care. He did not care less about him because of the fight between the left and right prime ministers in court or the fight between the empress and consort Yu. But he actually coveted his future sister-in-law. She knew that feelings were not something she could control, but it was awkward and difficult to say it out loud. Big Ice Cube, I have already made it clear to him. Before he completely lets go, I will not see him again. But I am worried that there will be some change in the situation. Then it will affect both of us. This was her true worry. The drowning incident involved Consort Yu. She was afraid that it would become more and more involved in the future. When that time came, it would be difficult for them to leave the capital. Xiao Su rubbed her head and said in a cold and hard voice, "I'll finish the things at hand first. In 2 days, I'll tell Imperial Father that I want to return to my fief. If he agrees, we'll go back to Lian City. We don't have to attend the wedding between the 2 countries and leave early." Hearing this, she was delighted and nodded heavily. "Okay, I will listen to you. A month ago, I've already informed Lianqing to prepare for the wedding. As soon as we return to the fief, we can immediately perform the ceremony." Xiao Su's gaze became gentle. She smiled charmingly. "I will listen to you." Chapter 1202. Hearing her obedient answer, Xiao Su could not help but pull her into his embrace. "Ever since I created the Fierce Wind Cavalry, I thought that as long as I wanted to do something in this world, there was nothing I couldn't do. But ever since I met you, I realized that there are still many things I need to do." Big Ice Cube's sudden lament made her a little stunned. She shrank into his arms and stuck close to him. Then, she slowly revealed a mischievous smile. "Of course, because you have to learn how to be a husband, and then become a father. People are not born with many things. They need to learn slowly in life. The responsibilities on your shoulders and the roles you play will also increase. Big Ice Block, I'll need your guidance in the future." Xiao Su smiled and reached out to touch her nose. "Naughty," she chuckled, and then remembered something. She couldn't help but stop the thought of teasing Big Ice Block. Her expression turned serious as she said, "Oh right, Big Ice Block, I have something to discuss with you." "Let's hear it." He raised his eyebrows. "This matter is related to Pang Zhijing. Do you remember that I asked the Wood Spirit to help her create the key to the 7 apertures exquisite lock on her feet? Today, I met her on the way back, and she confessed to me that she was forced to come to Sichuan to become a princess by marriage because of Pang Huang. Pang Huang wanted to use her to take revenge on you, but she resisted and chose Xiao Ho. After a simple explanation, she went straight to the point. She wants to ask for our help to help her escape the capital before the wedding and never come back. Isn't she and third brother in love?" Xiao Su raised his eyebrows and asked in a confused tone. Chu Qingyan shook her head. "I'm not sure about Xiao Ho's feelings for her, but I know that she likes Xiao Ho in her heart. It's just that this little girl is very open-minded and feels that Xiao Ho is not suitable for her. Moreover, she yearns for freedom more, so she wants to escape the marriage. What do you think of this matter? Can you help?" She asked if he could, not if he should. It was obvious that she was more inclined to help, but she had to consider the actual situation and whether or not she could help. "Yes," Xiao Su answered without hesitation. Chu Qingyan was stunned. She thought that she would have to spend a lot of time and energy to convince the Ice Cube. She didn't expect it to go so smoothly. "Big Ice Cube, you really surprised me." Previously, he had asked him to keep a distance from Pang Zhijing. Why was he so straightforward this time? Xiao Su could not help but pinch her nose when he saw her stunned expression. He chuckled and said, "I don't like to owe people favors. Her performance at the palace banquet saved us a lot of trouble. Just this point alone is enough to tell that she is worth helping." Besides, she quickly asked, "And what?" "Third brother has caused so much trouble for us in the past few years. It's time to return the favor. After all, as the old saying goes, it's impolite not to reciprocate." Speaking of this, Xiao Su's eyes flashed. From his observation, it was not that his third brother did not seem to have no feelings for Pang Zhijing. It was just that he did not notice it. If this matter could be settled in this period of time, his third brother would be distracted by Pang Zhijing's matter and would not have much energy to monitor the situation on his side. Then, it would be much easier for him to take the little fellow out of the capital. This was actually killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Under the analysis of the Ice Cube, she suddenly felt that helping Pang Zhijing escape from the marriage was a matter of great benefit and no harm. Returning the favor to Xiao Ho, and reducing the resistance. She had to admire the Ice Cube's vision of the overall situation. As expected of a general, he was able to devise strategies. But there is one more thing. Although the princess said that her escape from the marriage would not affect the two countries, I am still a little worried. She had to help, but she had to be careful and not make any mistakes. Otherwise, she would have to clean up the mess in a hurry. Xiao Su smiled indifferently. This is not something we should worry about. Sensing his nonchalant attitude, Chu Qingyan was a little surprised. Was this still the big block of eyes who prioritized his country over everything? Looking at the little fellow's shocked eyes, Xiao Su smiled. Ian, people will change. If you give too much or too long, you'll be tired. I have spent so many years playing the role of a royal prince. In the future, I will concentrate on being your husband, your parents' son-in-law, and the father of your future child. I will be very busy in the future and will not have so much time and energy to spend on things that have nothing to do with me. Moreover, if I have to think about everything, why do I need the civil and military officials? Protecting the country and the world is the responsibility of the monarch, and I will only be a small idle lord from now on. I don't have that much ability. Chu Qingyan was pleasantly surprised. The big ice cube was finally willing to let go of the heavy burden on his shoulders. She tiptoed and kissed him hard on the cheek. She said excitedly, I thought that by the time you said this, we would have to wait until we were both old and gray. It's great that you would be able to think things through. It's not that I don't have selfless patriotism, but I don't want you to waste all your energy on some unworthy people. They don't respect you at all and only treat you as a tool to protect the country. It's too unfair to you. The moisture on his face still had the remnants of her fragrance. With her soft body in his arms and her reassuring words in his ears, he felt at this moment that if he only lived for her for the rest of his life, perhaps he would never be tired of it. In the future, wherever she was, it would be his home, country, and world. He would use his entire life to guard it for her. You're right, but let's talk about something else now. In view of my sudden realization, wasn't the reward just now a little too light? He chuckled. His voice was especially seductive in the dark night. Chu Qingyan was stunned. Then, she realized what he was referring to, and her face immediately reddened. Unknowingly, the ice cube had already turned black. But such a large ice cube was so tempting. He lowered his eyes. His eyes were mesmerizing, and his voice was so seductive that she couldn't help but fall into it. She raised her head and slowly approached him. On the ground, two figures blended together. It was impossible to tell who was who. It was a beautiful day. Their clothes fluttered in the wind, and their passion overflowed. At this moment, Pang Zhijing brought Lu back to the relay station, exhausted. Shopping really wasn't a job that humans could do. Her legs almost didn't belong to her. At this moment, she was filled with regret. In order to compete with Xiao Ho, she had gone through all this trouble. She was simply making life difficult for herself. Her head drooped. She felt like she could sleep anywhere. As they walked, Lu suddenly tugged at her sleeve and said in surprise, Princess, look, there seems to be someone standing in our courtyard. Pang Zhijing wasn't in the mood. Our relay station is filled with people. It'd be strange if there's no one. She raised her head as she spoke. Using the weak moonlight, she looked at the figure that seemed a little familiar. That person seemed to have noticed their voices and slowly turned around. She widened her eyes. Xiao Ho. Chapter 1203. Seeing him here, Pang Zhijing's first thought was he wouldn't come to denounce her again, right? She was only hiding to prevent his people from finding her. Was there a need to be so serious and come to scold her in the middle of the night? Following that, she thought he had gone overboard with his words today. She was still angry, yet he still dared to come find her? She really didn't want to see him. As Lu cried out, Pang Zhijing expressionlessly walked over. She looked straight ahead and prepared to walk past him to return to her room. Xiao Ho looked at the person walking in front of him, not willing to look at him at all. She was completely ignoring him. He felt a bit helpless, but also found it funny. When she approached him, her heart couldn't help but beat faster. She looked down on herself and quickened her steps. However, a hand suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist, stopping her in her tracks. She had no choice but to stop and turn her eyes away from him. Xiao saw her stubbornly twisting her little face and raised his eyebrows. Still angry, Pang Zhijing didn't respond. "You really won't talk to me?" He walked in front of her and looked in her eyes as he asked this. Pang Zhijing turned her head away. Xiao looked around and felt that this wasn't a good place to talk, so he said to her, "Let's go somewhere else." Pang Zhijing felt weak all over and exhausted. She didn't want to go anywhere with him, so she tried to pry his fingers away, trying to break free. But don't look at his gentle and weak appearance. She used all her strength, but she couldn't move him at all. Luer saw that the two were entangled and her princess was at a disadvantage. She wanted to protect her master, so she went up to persuade him. "Lord, let's talk things out." Xiao looked at her and said gently, "This king will take the princess away. I'll return her later." After saying this, he didn't wait for Pang Zhijing's response. He grabbed her waist and flew out of the courtyard. Luer was shocked. She wanted to chase after him, but he was already gone. Ever since she fell down several times, she began to have a shadow of heights. She was so scared that she tightly hugged something she could lean on. At this moment, she couldn't care less about her grudge with Xiao. Looking at the person in his arms with her eyes tightly closed and her limbs wrapped around him like an octopus, the stubborn and cold appearance from before was nowhere to be seen. He had the thought of teasing her. He exerted strength in his legs and doubled his speed. Sure enough, she hugged him even tighter. He was in a good mood, but it was a pity that she was really firm in what she said before. She wouldn't talk to him, and she even endured the screams. It seemed that she was serious with him this time. However, he guessed that she must be cursing him in her heart right now. Xiao's guess was right. She had been cursing in her heart for a long time. "Ah, Xiao, you bastard, bad silver, I'm going to kill you. Ah, why aren't you landing yet? You scared me to death." At this moment, she wished she could transform into a shrew and give him a good scolding from head to toe. She was counting down the seconds like years. She didn't know how long she had been floating in the sky, but her feet finally landed on the ground. She almost collapsed to the ground. "Fortunately, I caught him, otherwise he would have been embarrassed." After she steadied herself, she pushed him away in a bad mood. She rubbed the wrist that he had grabbed earlier and stood silently by the side. Seeing her burning the bridge after crossing the river, and doing it so naturally, Xiao felt both angry and amused. He explained, "This is the mountain behind your relay station. Usually, no one will come here." She rolled her eyes. Who would come here? She turned around and wanted to leave. However, she felt her wrist being grabbed again. Again? Only this time, it wasn't as simple as grabbing her wrist. She felt a force pushing her back, and very quickly, her back was pressed against something hard. It was prickly and felt like tree bark. At this moment, a warm breath suddenly closed in. She abruptly regained her senses and raised her head, just in time to meet that pair of beautiful, smiling eyes. "You're really not going to talk to me?" He repeated the question from before, but in his words, there was a hint of threat. She turned her head and used her actions to express her refusal. "All right, then I'll see how long you can hold on for." His ambiguous words made her heart go thump. No way. Was he going to abuse her? Suddenly, the person in front of her leaned closer, and his shadow instantly enveloped her entire body. His masculine scent was everywhere. She opened her eyes wide to see that pair of sparkling eyes getting closer and closer. Her heart was completely flustered. What was he going to do? Could it be that he was going to force himself on her? If it was any other time, she would definitely pounce on him without any hesitation. But now that the two of them were in a cold war, kissing just because of a disagreement, was that appropriate? But that faintly discernible medicinal scent made her a little dazed. However, in her daze, she seemed to have seen a smirk of success flash past his eyes. It was as if cold water was poured over her as she instantly sobered up. She stretched out her hand and pushed him away. Then she pressed herself against the tree trunk, one hand pressing against her wildly beating heart, while the other hand stretched out to prevent him from coming closer. She glared at him with lingering fear. "You can't be like this. You don't play by the rules." Hearing her vibrant voice, Xiao Ho ignored her flustered and exasperated state. He crossed his arms and looked at her in a good mood. This prince has never stuck to the rules. It's fine as long as I achieve my goal. See, you can't hold it in anymore, can you? She snorted. Then dare I ask your highness Prince C, why did you try so hard to plot against me? If there's nothing important, I'll go back. This is the wilderness, so please do as you please. Forgive me for not being able to entertain you. There's nothing important. He muttered. Are you kidding me? All right, then forgive me for not seeing you off. See you later. She turned around to leave after she finished speaking. But who could tell her? How did the person who was just there a moment ago block her way in the blink of an eye? Xiao Ho, are you done yet? She was going crazy. Being reprimanded by him today was already bad enough, and now he was bullying her. How annoying. Looking at her angry face, although it was fun, he still had some conscience. He knew that even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered. He recalled what the guard said before. His wife needed to be coaxed more to reconcile. Let's give it a try. He was silent for a moment before he spoke a little awkwardly. The clothes you're wearing today are very nice. What? Pang Zhijing was a little dumbfounded. Did she hear it wrong? Was he crazy? Was he talking nonsense because his brain was connected to the sweet potato vine? He was so baffling. What do you want to do? She felt so tired and didn't want to deal with him anymore. She couldn't help but admit defeat and give up struggling. Xiao Ho's eyes twitched. As expected, she was special and not suitable for the coaxing methods of ordinary people. Sensing the tiredness and impatience in her eyes, he stopped smiling and reached out to tuck her hair behind her ear. His voice was serious and soft. Did those two bully you today? Chapter 1204. His ice-cold fingertips slid over her warm skin. The touch of ice and fire brought about a strange feeling. She felt a rare gentleness from him. The hair that fell over her shoulder was also pushed back. The air was filled with an ambiguous aura. Even the air was hot, making it hard for her to breathe. She was first stunned by his actions. Then she forced herself to calm down, but it was no use. What do you mean by those two people? Her thoughts could no longer keep up as she asked. I met them in the Linlang Pavilion. He patiently explained. His eyes never left her gradually turning red cheeks. The charming atmosphere suddenly disappeared. The confusion in her eyes disappeared as she recalled how he had lost his temper with her because of those two people. She reached out her hand to press against his chest and glared at him. Didn't you say that I hit people for no reason? You've already set a crime for me. So why are you asking me now? Could it be that you want to scold me again? Let me tell you, Xiao Ho, I'm the dignified Southern Blue Princess. My status is not any lower than yours. So why should I be lower than you? Being scolded like a primary school student. This princess is not happy and refuses to talk to you. The person in front of him seemed like she had her tail stepped on as she immediately jumped up. Her face was bright red, and he didn't know if it was because she was shy or angry. The red in her white skin was very attractive, making him think of peaches in spring. Only at this time, her body was covered in thorns, and she was on guard against him. Moreover, her anger was very strong, making it difficult for him to handle. Then I'll listen to your explanation now. Do you have anything to say? He looked in her eyes and said, wasn't it too late to ask her now? He no longer had his stern appearance and asked in a gentle voice. For someone like Pang Zhijing, who was amenable to coaxing but not coercion, it was very effective. Like a gust of warm wind, it gently knocked on the door of her heart, causing her grievances to slowly pour out. Her eyes gradually turned red, and her nose began to sting. Why should I explain just because you say so? What do you think I am? A doll that you can order at your beck and call? She held back her tears and angrily glared at him. But she didn't know how heart-wrenching it was for her to hold back her tears so that they wouldn't flow down her face. Xiao Ho hadn't paid much attention to her thoughts before. Now, seeing her so aggrieved and complaining, it was as if someone had dug a hole in his heart and it was empty. He couldn't help but reach out to hug her and comfort her. When he leaned over, Pang Zhijing seemed to have broken down. She clenched her fists and punched him. You bastard! Bastard! You're always prejudiced against others. You're bossy and dictatorial. I was bullied, and you still scolded me. I was clearly standing up for you, but you didn't ask for the reason and thought that I was being unreasonable. I've always advocated that if you can use your mouth, don't use your hands. If I wasn't so angry, would I have hit you with a vase? I was afraid that I would have to pay with my life if I killed someone, so I was especially careful with my strength. Their mouths are dirty. Is it wrong for me to teach them a lesson? You still blame me? Don't you know what kind of person I am? Do I look like the kind of person who would cause trouble? Xiao, you bastard. You're a bad person. He hugged her into his arms and let her beat him to vent her anger. She didn't have much strength. Her fists were just like scratching an itch, but her cries were like an invisible rope that kept entangling his heart. Along with it, he felt a little pain in his heart. He tightened his hands and said in a good temper, I've wronged you. I'm wrong. If you want to hit or scold me, I'll admit it. Perhaps even Xiao didn't know that this was the first time in his life that he had sincerely bowed down to someone and admitted his mistake. In the past, he had put on a show, but this was the only time he admitted it from the bottom of his heart. His gentle apology was like a catalyst that forced all her tears out. You're a dog-biting Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate a good person's kindness. Yes, I don't know how to appreciate a good person's kindness. You're dictatorial and only know how to teach people a lesson. You're so bad. Yes, I'm so bad. One was full of complaints, as if she wanted to vent all her grievances back to him. The other was comforting her wholeheartedly, as if he wanted to pour all his gentleness into her. However, after listening to his words, she cried even louder. Not knowing how long had passed, she finally lost all her strength and collapsed in his arms. Fortunately, he locked her in his arms and supported her. Otherwise, she would have been in close contact with the ground. Tired of crying and scolding, she snorted. If apologies are useful, why do I need constables? Xiao raised an eyebrow. You've been scolding me for so long, and you're still angry? Pang Zhijing whined. If I forgive you so easily, it'll be too easy for you. Compared to the damage you've done to my heart and spirit, what I said earlier is not enough to offset half of it. That's not enough? Xiao felt a headache coming on. Then what do you want? I haven't thought about it yet, but if you can sincerely and respectfully say to me that I'm wrong, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. She was the kind of person who would climb up the ladder if she was given a pole. However, she often couldn't tell the situation clearly, so she had already tormented herself. After she finished speaking, she was about to watch him admit defeat when she suddenly felt her feet hanging in the air. Then the world started to spin. When she stabilized, she opened her eyes and realized that she and Xiao were sitting on a tree trunk. If it was a tree trunk that was as tall as a person, it would be fine. However, this tree was bare and did not have any leaves. Just by looking down at the ground, she felt dizzy. She hugged his waist tightly. Her earlier awe-inspiring look instantly disappeared. Hurry and bring me down. I'm scared. Xiao leaned against the tree trunk calmly. He glanced at her hands that were hugging him and said slowly, What did you want me to apologize to you just now? No, you don't have to apologize. She wanted to go down now. Then why are you still angry? He reached out and played with her hair as he asked casually. I'm not angry. She shook her head resolutely. Am I very bad and a jerk? He continued to ask. I'm bad, I'm a jerk. She sobbed. So obedient. He rubbed her head. Then can we go down now? She negotiated and carefully asked in an attempt to curry favor. Xiao said leisurely, There's no rush. The higher you stand, the farther you can see. Don't you think that the scenery outside the relay station is the best from this height? See your head. I don't care, I want to go down. Hurry. She couldn't take it anymore and pounded him in protest. His gaze fell on her flushed cheeks. Xiao said calmly, If you move again, this prince can't guarantee that this branch will be able to withstand it. Just as he said that, the branch shook accordingly. She was so frightened that she immediately hugged him again. Then, she lifted her head from his embrace and asked pitifully, Then when are we going down? If you behave well. Pang Zhijing's face darkened. Chapter 1205. Was he teasing her? May I ask what you mean by good performance? She asked through gritted teeth. This question stumped Xiao Ho. He lowered his head and looked at the person lying in his arms. With a fake smile, he mercilessly said, "Your smile is too fake." She wrinkled her nose and wanted to smash the table. "You live by the sea. What?" Xiao Ho did not understand. "You're such a busybody," she muttered unhappily. Xiao Ho chuckled, which made her hair stand on end. He rubbed her hair hard. "If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. No one will blame you." She slapped his hand away from her hair and glared at him angrily. Seeing her angry look, it was much more pleasing to the eye than her cold look before. He could not help but pinch her face. "Be good, don't make a fuss." Why did these words sound so much like a doting boyfriend? Her face heated up slightly, and she tilted her head, not wanting him to see her like this. Then she turned around and saw that his clothes were wet from her tears, but he did not seem to care. But in Pang Zhijing's eyes, she felt a little embarrassed. Because of this, and because she knew that the more she went against him, the more he would go against her, so she stopped. Anyway, his martial arts were so high, he was not afraid of falling. Perhaps even she herself did not realize that in her interactions with Xiao Ho, she had slowly become dependent on him. The noisy people finally quieted down. Xiao Ho subconsciously lowered his head to look at her. From this angle, he could only see her exquisite side profile. He could not help but think of a phrase to describe her. Quiet as a virgin, moving as a fleeing rabbit. What a wonderful woman. She was different from anyone he had interacted with before. He slightly retracted his gaze and suddenly asked, "Why should I care when their mouths are on their bodies?" This question circled around his heart, but he could not find the reason. He was very puzzled. Hearing his puzzled question, Pang Zhijing was a little dazed, because even she did not know the reason for his question. She only remembered that at that time, their words were unpleasant and full of malicious words. She was so angry that she didn't know where she got the courage to stand out and fight the two of them alone. Just think of it as me being hot-headed. There was an answer in her heart, but she didn't want to tell him. Perhaps it was because he didn't want to hear others speak ill of him and implicate his beloved mother. So he supported her with all his might. Xiao Ho was obviously very dissatisfied with this answer, but he didn't know how to make her speak. Just as he was silent, he heard the person in his arms continue. "Actually, after thinking about it, I felt that I was really brave. If there was a next time, I might not have the courage to throw that vase. At most, I would have scolded them." As he listened to her self-analysis and how she didn't mind showing off her cowardice to him, he couldn't help but look at her as an indescribable emotion welled up in his heart. He was slightly dazed, and when he came back to his senses, he felt a bit uncomfortable. Then, he didn't forget to lecture her. Fighting was the last resort. You're still a girl, and you have no relatives or friends in the capital. If you hadn't stopped them in time, you would have been the one to suffer. She curled her lips, but I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't just watch them leave. So it was because of him that she was angry. Xiao Ho hooked his lips into a devilish smile. "You can remember their faces and tell me. I have my ways to punish them." "Really? If I'm bullied in the future, I can ask you for help?" Her eyes instantly lit up. She clung to his arms and looked at him expectantly. He couldn't help but avert his eyes from her bright eyes of course. "Great. This way, I'll have a protective talisman. You're so sinister and cunning. Only you can bully others. Who can bully you? Looks like I can walk sideways in the capital in the future." Pang Zhijing's smile almost reached her ears. Seeing the person who was so happy that she couldn't tell north from south, Xiao Ho couldn't bear to hurt her, so he shut his mouth in the end. With the knot in her heart removed, Pang Zhijing didn't argue with him about what happened today and started to become a chatterbox. "Do you really think that my clothes look good?" She thought of his praise and asked bashfully. "Oh, that was a white lie," he replied casually. She was stunned for a moment. Then she roared, "Xiao Ho, I'm never talking to you again." Xiao Ho added, "Indeed, there's nothing else to praise, so I reluctantly made do with the clothes." See you in debt." "No, I won't even see you in debt." "All right, if you can go down by yourself." "Then I'll reluctantly meet you." She was stunned. She was too cowardly, but there was no other way. This place was too high, and her life was in his hands. She could only secretly think that when they reached flat ground, she would definitely not have anything to do with him anymore. She kept a straight face and didn't want to talk anymore. She felt that if she continued talking to him, she would only be asking for humiliation. Perhaps it was because she didn't talk and was too quiet that Xiao was not used to it. In the future, how should I address you? He took the initiative to ask. It's not the first time we've met. Why are you being so polite? She rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. You said before that if you talk to me in the future, you won't call me Pang Zhijing. He repeated the words she said in Lin Lang Pavilion. She muttered softly, my name wasn't that in the first place. What are you mumbling to yourself about? Nothing. If there was a chance in the future, she would tell him. Yes, if there was a chance. Today, Pang Zhijing felt like she was on a roller coaster. Her mood had been fluctuating. After crying bitterly, her body had reached a certain point of exhaustion. Under the cool breeze and the bright moon, in the comfortable embrace, Pang Zhijing felt sleepy. Slowly, she closed her eyes. After a long time, seeing that she didn't speak, Xiao lowered his head and her peaceful sleeping face came into view. She was like a little rabbit that stood aloof from worldly affairs, obedient and well-behaved as she nestled on his body. Without a trace of defense, she fell asleep just like that. Xiao reached out his hand and landed on her soft face, gently caressing it with pity. Today's her had completely overturned his understanding of her. When someone slandered him, she stood up for him without hesitation. When he misunderstood, she didn't explain herself and wasn't willing to take out what she did for him to gain his favor. She didn't tell him that she did it to help him vent his anger. Compared to those people who did something and announced it to the world, she was really so pure and beautiful that it made people pity her. He sighed softly. Forget it. If you want to walk sideways, then walk sideways. I will protect you. The treetops swayed slightly, and in the blink of an eye, he had already landed on the ground with her in his arms. He lowered his eyes to look at her. When he saw that she wasn't woken up, he then used his qigong and leaped towards her courtyard. In this world, there was no hatred for no reason, and there was no love for no reason. But most people didn't know where their feelings came from, but they were deeply in love. Chapter 1206. Ever since Xiao Ran was rejected by Chu Qingyan that day, he had been in a daze and had been drinking in the palace all day. He still couldn't understand what was wrong with him. Why couldn't Qingyan look at him more than once? He picked up the wine jug and poured it into his mouth, allowing the wine to flow from the corners of his mouth. In an instant, the wine jug was half empty. Qingyan, why don't you want to see me? I like you so much. He burped, then stood up shakily with the help of the table. After taking a few steps, he fell back down. He didn't feel any pain and continued to drink from the wine jug. As he drank, he shook his head and began to recite a poem. Guan Guan Ju Jiao, in the continent of the river, a fair and virtuous woman, a gentleman's dream, a mixed and virtuous woman, a mixed and virtuous woman. A gentleman seeks her all night long, a fair and virtuous woman. A gentleman tosses and turns. Lord Xiangyu, what should we do? His Highness has already been drinking for several days. If this continues, I'm afraid his body won't be able to take it. The mama who had raised Xiao Ran single-handedly wiped away her tears when she saw him in such a daze. Xiangyu frowned deeply. Mama, go to the Moon Palace and report everything to Her Highness. See how Her Highness will deal with this. The mama gave an AI and immediately complied. After all, they were all servants. Only Her Highness consort, Yu, could control His Highness. Moon Palace. Her Highness, fourth prince, is drunk. The people in the palace can't stop him. Consort Yu had already been troubled by her son's refusal to see her these past 2 days because he blamed her. Now that she saw the mama frantically running over to report, she was shocked. She didn't care about anything else and immediately went over with her people. The moment she entered the inner hall, the smell of alcohol hit her in the face. Consort Yu frowned and immediately had the people open all the windows. When Consort Yu saw that there was no one on the bed, table, or chair, she immediately turned to question the palace servants in the hall. "Where is His Highness?" The mama immediately pointed in the direction. "His Highness is there." Looking in the direction the nanny was pointing, she saw a figure curled up under the windowsill, holding a bottle of wine in his arms, taking a few sips from time to time. Imperial concubine Moon's eyes widened. She never imagined that in just a few short days, her son would become so thin and dispirited that he looked like a drunkard on the side of the road. She was both angry and angry. "What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and help His Highness onto the bed." The eunuchs behind him immediately stepped forward and prepared to help him up. Afterwards, Xiao Ran, whose mood of drinking had been disrupted, waved them away and shakily pushed himself up from the ground. He turned around and saw his mother. He couldn't help but blink. After doing his best to see clearly, he smiled. "You've come. Quickly, someone come and take a seat. How can I let my mother stand?" Before he could finish, he fell down again. Consort Yu held her forehead. He was actually drunk to the point of being delirious. "Why aren't you helping His Highness up yet?" Very quickly, Xiao Ran was brought to the bed. During this time, Consort Yu wanted someone to change his clothes, but no one could stop him when he was drunk. They could only put a blanket over him first. Consort Yu sat down and saw that his face was flushed and his breathing was somewhat irregular. Her heart jumped, and she immediately went to wipe his forehead. As expected, it was very hot. This unfilial son, he's already this sick, and he still dares to drink. Consort Yu was so angry that her anger immediately flared up. "Mama Jiang, drag out all the palace servants and give them 20 beatings. How are they taking care of His Highness?" They actually didn't call for an imperial physician. The palace servants all knelt down and begged for mercy. His Highness didn't want to see an imperial physician, so they couldn't do anything. Consort Yu didn't pay any attention to them. Very quickly, someone came forward to drag them away. Soon, the outside of the hall was filled with cries and cries. "Jade Rabbit, quickly go to the imperial physician's courtyard and call for an imperial physician." Consort Yu ordered. "Yes, Your Highness." Jade Rabbit didn't dare delay and quickly ran off. Why can't it be me? Qingyan, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I really like you. Eldest brother, can you give Qingyan to me?" At this time, most of the people in the hall had left. Consort Yu reached out to stroke her son's head. Hearing him speak nonsense, she felt very uncomfortable. She was just a woman, but she caused him to be in this state. Consort Yu suddenly had the thought of making her disappear. What a foolish child. There are millions of women in the world. Why must you hang yourself to a tree? Very quickly, an imperial physician came back with a medicine box. Imperial physician Li, quickly take a look at Ranner. How is his illness? Consort Yu anxiously said. Imperial physician Li was the most senior imperial physician in the imperial physician's courtyard. He was also the one with the best medical skills. Even Consort Yu had to be polite to him. Imperial physician Li put down the medicine box and said to Consort Yu, "Your Highness, please wait patiently. I'll make a judgment after taking a look." Consort Yu hurriedly complied. Imperial physician Li sat down and placed Xiao Ran's hand on the pillow. Then, he pinched his beard and closed his eyes to examine his pulse. After a while, Imperial physician Li opened his eyes with a frown. He then checked Xiao Ran's eyes and muttered to himself. Then, he turned to Consort Yu and said in a grave voice, "Reporting to Your Highness, His Highness the Fourth Prince caught a cold after falling into the water. He hasn't been treated in time. In addition, he has a disordered schedule, skipped meals, and drank too much. Now, his condition has worsened and his fever won't subside. If his fever continues, I'm afraid his brain will be damaged." What? Ranner could become an idiot? Consort Yu almost fainted. Nurse Jiang and Jade Rabbit hurriedly helped her to the side to rest. Imperial physician Li also immediately checked her pulse. Then he sighed in relief. "Your Highness is just overly frightened. You just need to rest for a bit." Consort Yu said with a pale face, "Imperial physician Li, you don't need to worry about this consort. Saving Ranner, is more important. All right, this old one will prescribe some medicine for the fourth prince. Then, no matter what, you have to feed him some liquid food. After that, we'll see if his fever can subside today. If it can't, then this old one will be unable to save the situation. Imperial physician Li had seen many big scenes and was relatively calm. After he finished speaking, he turned to write down the prescription. Then, he had the palace servants rush to the imperial hospital to prepare the medicine. Consort Yu struggled to sit up and sat down next to Xiao Ran. She held her son's hands and placed them next to her face with a mournful expression. It wasn't easy for her to climb to this position and fight with those imperial concubines until now. Her greatest achievement was giving birth to this son. In the entire imperial family, which prince was more favored than him? His Majesty's entire heart was on him. If there were no accidents, the country would be handed over to him sooner or later. If something happened to him, wouldn't all her years of forbearance be in vain? Would it all become a wedding dress for someone else? Consort Yu fiercely threatened. Ranner, if something happened to you, Mother wouldn't want to live either. But don't worry, Mother will kill Chu Qingyin to accompany you in death. No one noticed that Xiao Ran's eyelids twitched slightly. Chapter 12:07. Inside the Imperial Study. Sichuan Emperor looked at his eldest son, who was standing ramrod straight in front of his desk. He was shocked by his son's words, but after many years of governing the imperial court, he no longer showed his joy on his face. He stroked his beard and asked with uncertainty, "Are you sure you want to hand over the command medallion of the three armies? These are the soldiers you brought up yourself." Xiao Su nodded without thinking. "I have thought it through very clearly." Sichuan Emperor was secretly delighted. 5 years ago, he used some tricks to get his son to hand over the military power of the three armies. He finally had peace for a few years, but he didn't expect the Southern Song army to invade and take over many cities in a few months. No one in the imperial court could carry the burden of recovering the people, so he could only use his eldest son, who he had sent to a remote area. Although he was afraid of his son's ability, he was worried that his son would rebel once he regained control of the military power. Especially when he returned to the imperial court, he couldn't sleep well every day for fear that someone would come and tell him that his son was going to rebel. In order to regain control of the military power, he worried so much that his hair turned white. If he issued an edict to take back the military power, it would only make the imperial court bitterly disappointed and say that he was burning the bridge after crossing the river. Sichuan Emperor felt that it couldn't be better since it was his son who had taken the initiative to bring it up. He felt the most at ease with the military power in his hands. However, he still had to say some polite words. Otherwise, he would seem too heartless as an emperor. "Why did you suddenly make this decision? Haven't you been managing it well?" Xiao Su replied with a respectful expression. This decision wasn't made by this son all of a sudden. In fact, when the three armies returned, this son had already wanted imperial father to take back the military power. However, considering that the Southern Blue Continent's marriage alliance could be a smokescreen, this son decided to temporarily keep it for a period of time. I paused for a moment, and his tone became more sincere. "The reason why I made this decision is because I feel that there will always be talented people in this country. I believe that imperial father has a better candidate to take over this position. I have been fighting on the battlefield since I was a teenager and have been in turmoil. Now, I want to settle down and have a family. And now that the world is peaceful, we don't have to live the days of fighting and killing. I feel that this heavy burden can be lifted." These reasons were reasonable. Sichuan Emperor gradually let down his guard. At this time, he remembered that his son, who did not serve him often, had fought on the battlefield for Sichuan for many years. In his heart, he felt somewhat gratified and guilty. "You said that you want a family because of that girl from the Chu clan?" It was rare for the Sichuan Emperor to be so compassionate and show concern for his son's private affairs. Xiao Su nodded and said frankly, "I am very grateful that Imperial Grandfather and Imperial Father have arranged this marriage for I. Ayan is very good. I feel very satisfied to be able to spend the rest of my life with her." I didn't expect that girl to be so charming that she can make a cold-faced war god like you admit defeat. But you didn't let down your imperial grandfather and my painstaking efforts. Back then, he had only agreed to his imperial father's absurd proposal to betroth the 10-year-old Chu Qingyan to him because he wanted to weaken his power and prevent the left prime minister's faction from expanding. At that time, many officials in the court had stood up to oppose him. If his imperial father hadn't held the fort and shouldered most of the pressure, this marriage probably wouldn't have been settled so easily. Now, it seemed that he didn't blame his imperial father because of this matter. This was good. Many thanks to imperial father for granting this marriage. Xiao Su bowed his head and thanked his imperial father. So many years have passed, there's no need to be so polite. But what do you plan to do after you relinquish your military power? We can arrange an idle position for you with a salary. How about it? In order to not appear too heartless, Sichuan Emperor did his best to appear amiable and approachable. Xiao Su raised his head and looked at his imperial father, who was waiting for his answer. He calmly said, I haven't completed the mission you gave to I, so after I relinquish my position, I want to return to Lianxing and continue to supervise the search for the mineral resources in the Fu-Li mountain range. 5 years ago, he had sent him to the Fu-Li mountain range to send him away. Father and son had a tacit understanding, and neither had exposed this layer of window paper. Now that he brought it up himself, it made Sichuan Emperor a bit wary. He narrowed his eyes slightly and calmly studied his son in front of him, wanting to see what he was thinking. However, he saw that his son's eyes were open and unafraid of his scrutiny. He couldn't help but wonder if Su-Er really wanted to leave during this sensitive period for the crown prince position. We originally transferred you there because we didn't have a suitable candidate. Why do you want to continue staying there now? Sichuan Emperor probed. Xiao Su calmly replied, After 5 years in Lianxing, I and Qingyan are already used to the environment there. Furthermore, Qingyan likes the local conditions and customs. She has been used to freedom since she was young, so she might not be used to living in the capital. Therefore, I felt that it would be better for us to return to Lianxing rather than stay in the capital. Furthermore, I has experienced many days of fighting and killing, so he wants to live his remaining days in peace. In order to successfully obtain his imperial father's approval, Xiao Su, who usually spoke very little, did his best to express his thoughts and strive to obtain his approval. This kind of reason was reasonable. Sichuan Emperor felt that his departure from the capital would be more beneficial to the entire court and him. Then you're not young anymore. When do you plan to get married? Sichuan Emperor suddenly had the conscience of a father and began to worry about their marriage. Xiao Su truthfully reported, I plans to go back to Lianxing and simplify the arrangements. Therefore, I request that Imperial Father allow I to leave the capital and return to my fief in 10 days. Sichuan Emperor was stunned. So soon? Your fourth brother's engagement banquet is in a month. Even if it doesn't work out, shouldn't you wait until after your third brother's wedding before leaving? Xiao Su thought to himself that they should leave the capital as soon as possible to avoid any complications. You should know that I likes peace and quiet. You can't stay in places that are too lively. Therefore, I feels that they're the main characters of the wedding banquet, so I won't join in the fun. Sichuan Emperor agreed. His son rarely attended banquets, so he was moved by his suggestion. He also didn't want him to stay in the capital for too long to avoid any accidents. However, if he agreed immediately, it would appear that his imperial father was too impatient to take back his military power. In the eyes of others, it would appear that he, as the monarch, was chasing away the son of a meritorious official. I'll keep your command token for now. However, I have to let imperial father consider your departure from the capital. At the very least, I have to inform your imperial mother. Sichuan Emperor stroked his beard and spoke with a troubled expression. Xiao Su could tell that his imperial father had already made a decision. However, he didn't want to give him an immediate answer because he didn't want to be criticized. A great weight was lifted from his heart. He bowed and said, This son obeys. After Xiao Su left, Sichuan Emperor stroked the command token of the 3 armies and revealed a satisfied smile. His heart was finally at ease. However, At this moment, Unit Xiao came in and reported, "Your Majesty, Her Highness Consort Yu requests an audience with you for an urgent matter." Sichuan Emperor put away the command token and said in a good mood, "Let her in." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.